Hey everyone, this is What If Fan bringing you another part of What If Luffy Became a Marine. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Please make sure to support the creator. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, a quick update, there's only one more part left in the story. What if Ichigo had a different Zanpakuto before we fully catch up with the author? So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be on this channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if sign-in system in high school DxD? What if Ichigo awoke his true powers? What if Mangaka in One Piece world? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next on the channel. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 11, once again, Grand Line. Tashigi stood outside the Straw Hats room. She had her hand raised to knock but had stopped midway, remembering her exchange with Zoro last night. She knew she had been insensitive. He had already mentioned about the importance of Wado Ikemanji clearly back in the arms shop, but she still demanded the duel from him. There was no way for him to have a positive image of her now. What made it worse was that he was now his superior, not a ruthless bounty hunter she had heard so much about. Whether she liked it or not, he was one of the Marines now. She sighed before finally rapping her knuckles on the door. "Come in," a voice answered from the other side. Tashigi hesitated. Are they really going to let her in like this? Then again, they didn't know it was her anyway. Tashigi pushed open the door quickly before saluting. Master Chief Petty Officer Tashigi reporting. Captain Smoker requests for Commodore Luffy in his office. Tashigi had pointedly avoided looking at the part of the room she knew Zoro was at. She breathed a sigh of relief as she found the other three in the room had already dressed themselves. Tashigi-chan. Sanji spun towards the door. May I interest you in some breakfast? Tashigi took a hesitant step back from him, I'm sorry, sir, I already ate. Sanji collapsed onto the floor, crying in front of a confused Tashigi. Luffy stepped over him casually as he pulled on his cloak. Thanks Tashigi, I'll head there now. Tashigi watched Luffy leave before turning back to look at the still crying Sanji, unsure of what to do. Oi, Zoro called out from the room, getting Tashigi's attention. She turned towards him expecting him to be upset at her presence, only to be taken aback to see him grinning at her. That perverted guy over there needs some new clothes, why don't you help him go get some? Tashigi didn't have time to react before Sanji suddenly stood up to grasp her hands. It will be an honor to accompany you, mademoiselle. Tashigi quickly pulled her hands back, glaring at Zoro. Fo. Follow me. Zoro smirked as he watched Sanji pirouette out after her. That should be plenty enough revenge for yesterday. Luffy barged into Smoker's room without knocking. Smokey, you looking for me? Smoker looked up from his desk of paperwork, grinning at him. Luffy noticed two cigars that had been extinguished recently smoldering on the ashtray in front of him. Yeah, sit down, it's about our plans today. Smoker gestured to the chair in front of him, kicking himself back and leaning on the chair. Luffy gingerly sat himself down in front of Smoker, grinning uncontrollably. Can't wait to go back to the Grand Line? Smoker noticed his grin. Yep. I can't wait to see everyone again. Luffy grinned. How many of your Vivre cards did you give out? Smoker smirked at him, pulling out a small piece of paper and flipping it around his fingers. Luffy shrugged. I dunno, I just gave it to everyone who asked. Shishishishi. Smoker sighed, shaking his head though a smile still stuck on his face. So what are you planning for the Grand Line? I'm gonna beat up and arrest all the bad guys. Luffy said simply. Smoker smirked at that. Anyone who saw Luffy for the first time would always underestimate him due to his easygoing nature and age, but he already knew firsthand how serious that mistake was. The boy that sat in front of him was no mere boy. Having survived Garp's training from hell was already a miracle in itself. The Vice Admiral had definitely not gone easy on his grandson at all. Most people might have mistook Garp for trying to kill him. Smoker remembered the short time that Luffy had been attached to his unit along with Hina. He had looked down on the boy, thinking of him as nothing but a pompous and arrogant kid that was riding his grandfather's coattails. How wrong he was. Luffy was most definitely not human. No human could possess such strong will and tenacity in that small body of his, and in that short time he was with Smoker, Luffy had managed to gain his respect and more. Smoker sighed again. Anyway, down to business. Smoker stuck the small card away in his jacket before pushing a piece of paper towards him with his report of Buggy's capture. I managed to get Buggy, but Alvida and a large portion of the crew managed to escape due to the storm yesterday, which I am really embarrassed about, mind you. I'm crediting Buggy's capture to both of us, but I'll be giving you the bounty money. Luffy shook his head quickly. You should keep it, Smokey. I didn't do much yesterday. Don't be modest on me now. I know you can't put in a request for monetary support at any marine base, so this would be one of your only sources of income. I insist. Smoker pulled out a bag and placed it on the table. This is the other half of the bounty, 7.5 million, Smoker grinned. Luffy shook his head again. Smokey, I know you're doing this for me, but I insist you keep it. You did most of the work this time, and in fact, don't even include my name in your report. I want you to take full credit for it. Smoker stared at him for a while, letting the silence drag on for a while. Smoker finally slumped his shoulders. There's no convincing you, is there? Nope. And don't go giving that to any of my crew. I won't forgive you otherwise. Luffy grinned while wagging a finger at him. TCH. Smoker turned away, his thoughts seen through. At least take a part of it? I don't need this much. We'll make do with what we have. Money hasn't been an issue so far, Luffy grinned. Smoker sighed before placing the bag back under the table. I'll still include your name in the report. You did, after all, kept Buggy away from the civilians. I'm not backing down on this one. Fine, Luffy pouted at him, crossing his arms. With that aside, about you heading to the Grand Line. Luffy sat upright, eyes sparkling at Smoker. Your navigator, does she have any experience navigating in the Grand Line? Luffy scratched his head. I don't think so. Alright, I'll get one of my navigators to give her a rundown of it, Smoker grunted, popping an unlit cigar in his mouth. My men should be supplying your ship with rations now. Once it's done, my ship will tow yours across the calm belt, then you can make your way to Twin Cape. Luffy nodded. And Buggy? He'll be on my ship. Once I've seen you off at the Grand Line, I'll drop him at the nearest marine base for transfer to impel down. Ah, you'll be returning to Lode Town after that? Luffy tilted his head. Smoker sighed. I've been stationed here after all. Unless something comes up, I'm not allowed to leave. I see. Luffy sounded rather disappointed. Smoker glanced up at Luffy to see his grin had never left his face. He pointed a finger at him. Don't come up with any ideas just to make me stay there now, you hear? Shishishi, sure, Smokey, Luffy laughed. I'm serious. I don't need any more problems on my plate now. Smoker warned. Alright. I'll be good. Luffy waved his hands in a placating gesture, his grin still not leaving his face. Smoker let out another sigh. In the meantime, why don't you go brief your crew? I'm assuming you haven't done that yet? Ah, that's right. Luffy gasped, just remembering. Go on then, I don't have anything else for you. Smoker shooed him away. Shishishi, thanks again, Smokey. I'll see you later. Luffy dashed out of the room, waving back. You expect me to accept this crap? Sanji yelled at the terrified Marine. Toshiji was staring incredulously at the Straw Hats cook berating at the Marines transporting food to their ship. According to him, the supplies they were carrying were garbage, disgusting and inedible, and would insult him as a chef to even cook them for his crew. Toshiji had led the cook to the quartermaster's office with his absurd request for having a uniform befitting of a dashing fighting cook like himself. He ended up choosing the normal chef's jacket and got himself a few sets of white-colored suits as well. That was when he noticed the Marines that were transporting the food to the ship. Toshiji watched in disbelief as Sanji started digging through the food that had been packed for them and lamented over the fact that there weren't enough competent chefs in existence. He started sorting through the food with a critical eye and began sorting them through to another box. Commander Sanji? I think it might be better if you go a little easier on them. Toshiji tried placating the angry chef. Sanji turned to look at her with hearts in his eyes. Of course, Toshiji-chan. Toshiji grimaced and took a step back. She still couldn't get used to his outbursts. She felt rather frustrated that he would treat her differently just because she's a girl, but he had claimed that it was his chivalrous spirit that made him so. "Hi Sanji." A voice called out from behind. Luffy strolled towards them with a huge grin plastered on his face. "I'm hungry. You have anything to eat? Can't you just eat at the mess hall?" Sanji raised an eyebrow. Luffy stuck his tongue out. "Their food isn't as good as yours." Sanji glanced at Toshiji triumphantly. "I'll make you something later. You're welcome to join us too, Toshiji-chan." I told you. I already ate." Toshiji stuttered. "It's okay, I'll just make you something light." Sanji spun around her, hearts floating off him. My captain won't allow it." "That's alright. We'll just invite him along too." Luffy grinned. "That's... well... alright then." Toshiji slumped her shoulders in defeat. "Great. I'll go get the rest. Meet you on the ship." Luffy dashed towards the base. "Naomi." Luffy barged into her room without knocking. Nami was sitting on her bed with piles of clothes around her, her hands frozen in mid-sewing. "Luffy. At least knock, will you?" Nami sighed at his tactlessness, looking back down on the shirt she was working on and continuing her sewing. "Shishishi, sorry." Luffy scratched his head apologetically. "Anyway, Sanji's preparing breakfast on the ship, so come down when you're ready." He didn't wait for a reply and left the room, shoving open the door on the opposite side. "Usopp! Zoro! Breakfast!" Luffy yelled. "Come on, get up! Let's go!" Luffy jumped around the room. "We heard you, Luffy." Zoro yawned, still on the bed. "Luffy. I don't look weird, right?" Usopp was posing in front of the mirror with his new outfit. "Not at all. Come on, Sanji's going to make breakfast." Luffy disappeared back out the corridor. He. "Commander Usopp. That doesn't sound too bad, huh, Zoro?" Usopp stuck his chest out proudly. Yeah. Now let's go before that Commodore of ours eat all the food." Zoro grabbed Usopp by the arm and pried him away from the mirror forcefully, joining Nami that had just exited out from her room as well. Food. Luffy chanted, banging the table with his hand. "Be patient. I'm working on it." Sanji yelled back, a tick on his head. Zoro narrowed his eyes at the pouting Toshiji. She had pointedly avoided looking at him the moment she had sat down opposite him at the table. Beside her sat a disgruntled smoker, who had been dragged to the ship despite all his protests by Luffy. "Luffy, I get the captain, but why is she here?" Zoro pointed an accusing finger at Toshiji. "Don't point fingers at her, you uncivilized brute." Sanji smacked at his hand. "Shut up, you shitty cook, and cook your damn food." Zoro yelled back. "Sorry about that." Nami apologized. "They're always like this." Toshiji waved her hands. No. I don't mind, I should be the one apologizing for intruding." "Nonsense. Eating is more fun with more people." Luffy laughed, banging the table again. Toshiji sighed before turning to glance at her captain. "You're not smoking, Captain?" Toshiji gasped as she finally noticed. "Humph, I'm fulfilling a promise," Smoker grunted, folding his arms across his chest. "Don't get used to it." Toshiji gasped. The last time when she told him to stop smoking out of concern for his health, Smoker had just snorted at her and lit up another cigar to put in his mouth. He never listened to anyone's advice about his smoking habits, so what promise could have made him stop? Before she could ask, Sanji placed down his specially prepared breakfast for them. It looked like a simple breakfast of toast, eggs and ham, but everything was prepared with Sanji's utmost skill. "I take it you haven't briefed them yet?" Smoker sighed, munching down on his toast. Nope. Luffy grinned, already stuffing his mouth with food. I'll do it then. Smoker crossed his arms. I'm not sure if you guys are aware yet, but all of you are being reassigned to the Grand Line starting today. All the Straw Hats nodded. Grand Line's a place that's very different compared to East Blue. Strong people are common there and the weather there is no joke either. Smoker glanced pointedly at Nami. She nodded as she got the hint. I heard that other than Luffy himself, none of you have gone to the Grand Line? They nodded again. Smoker massaged his temples. I won't lie, at your current level, you guys will come across people that would steamroll past you without a problem. In order to survive the Grand Line, all of you need to get stronger to face these monsters. Smoker turned to look Nami dead in the eye. Nami, you're the navigator. You will be the most important member while at sea. The whole crew's fate will rest in your navigation skills. I'll have someone sent down to teach you about what to expect there. Nami gulped, fully understanding the burden she carries while they're at sea. In a while, I'll be towing your ship across the calm belt to get to the Grand Line. Once we're there, you guys will be on your own. What's the calm belt? Zoro raised an eyebrow. It's a stretch of sea that lies on both sides of the Grand Line that is absolutely calm. I'm saying no waves, no wind, nothing, just completely calm weather and waters. That is what makes it so hard to enter the Grand Line. Mostly only marine ships that had pedals installed can safely navigate through the calm belt. Smoker grinned. Not to mention, it's also the breeding ground for the Sea Kings, Nami sighed. Sea Kings? Will we be alright? Usopp gasped. We'll be fine, everything's accounted for, Smoker grinned assuringly. Besides, in the Grand Line, Sea Kings will be the least of your worries, your Commodore would know. Shishi. Luffy laughed, scratching at his head. I better get going then, thanks for the great food. Smoker pushed himself up from the table. He turned and frowned at Tashigi still stuffing her mouth. Tashigi! We're going. Tashigi turned to look at her captain with tear-filled eyes, but captain. It's so good. Smoker sighed before dragging a sobbing Tashigi off the ship. Luffy sat on the figurehead of Mary, watching the sea as Smoker's ship pulled them along the calm belt. Sanji stepped up behind him, his hands in his pockets. Commodore, I have lunch ready. Luffy turned towards the grinning Sanji. He had already changed out from his usual black suit to one of the standard chef outfits the Marines wore. Underneath, he wore a white dress shirt with a blue tie and a chef's button jacket over it. A blue cloth was tied around his waist to stop the jacket from fluttering, and below it was a pair of white dress pants. His marine cloak hung proudly on his shoulders, now no longer looking out of place. Luffy hopped off his perch and followed Sanji into the dining room where everyone else was already seated, waiting for Luffy. I propose we do an official entering the Grand Line celebration right after we cross the calm belt. Sanji grinned, gesturing towards a barrel he had stowed away at the corner of the kitchen. That's a great idea, Sanji. Luffy exclaimed, already munching on his food. So where's Smoker taking us, Luffy? Nami asked, propping her head up with her hand. Nami had similarly changed out of her usual outfit to better match her marine status. She had apparently spent the whole of this morning sewing on marine insignia on most of the clothes she bought, not wanting to waste them. Right now she wore a white tank top with the word Marines emblazoned on the chest and a pair of tight blue shorts. She had opted not to wear her marine cloak for now, leaving it inside her room. Oh, Nami. Your tattoo changed. Luffy noted, looking at her bare shoulder. Where there had once been the mark of the Arlong pirates now lay a spiral tattoo that looked like a pinwheel with tangerines sprouting at one of the tips. She glanced at her shoulder. Yeah, I had it changed back at my village after the party. What do you think? It's way better than that Arlong one. Shishi. Luffy grinned. Hee, thanks. So where are we going? Nami asked again, grinning back. Ah, that's right, they taught you about the log pose and everything back at Lodetown, right? A crash course more like, they taught me the basics, Nami groaned. Smoker had kept his word and had one of the marine navigators come down to their ship to tutor her in navigating the Grand Line as much as he could. The amount of information she had to absorb was astronomical. The Grand Line seemed to be a navigator's nightmare at first glance. There was nothing that she could trust other than her crew and the log pose. Grand Line was already proving itself to be a dreadful place. Yep, we're supposed to choose our own route here, so we're going to head to the very start of the Grand Line. Twin Cape. Luffy punched his hand in the air. I still can't believe we're actually going to the Grand Line. Usopp wondered, his eyes staring at the roof. Heh, things are just going to get more interesting from now, Sanji grinned. I'll definitely get stronger and face him again. Zoro grunted. Luffy grinned at his crew. Every one of them had a crazy dream they wanted to fulfill, each of them so different, and yet here they are as one crew. Luffy! We just passed the comm belt. Smoker yelled from his ship. Every one of the Straw Hats grinned, looking back at the barrel. They went out on the deck with Sanji rolling the barrel out of the kitchen. He propped it up on the deck in the middle of them, placing his foot at the top of it. To find the all blue, he grinned. To become the greatest swordsman, Zoro grunted, similarly placing his foot on it. To draw a map of the world. Nami chuckled. 2. To become the greatest warrior of the seas. Usopp yelled. To become a marine admiral. Luffy laughed. All 5 of them raised their foot with a yell and brought it down on the barrel with a satisfying crunch. You can already see it from here. Twin Cape is that mountain over there, Smoker pointed at the looming Silho. You wet in the distance. I'll leave you guys here, I'll be dropping this clown off to be transferred to Impel Down. Smoker pointed downwards at where Buggy was held in the ship. Thanks for everything, Smokey. I'll see you again. Maybe you'll get a new post soon. Luffy waved, jumping up and down on the prow of the ship. Every one of the Straw Hats stood on the deck of the ship to see Smoker off. Commander Roronoa Zoro. Toshiji shouted from the ship. I apologize for what I've said, please forgive my rudeness. Shay. That girl. It would have been fine if you left it at that. Zoro cursed under his breath. Zoro turned his back to her, waving her off. Ha! I didn't know you could get embarrassed, Sanji smirked. Shut it, shitty cook. You wanna go? Zoro unsheathed his blade. I'll take you on, stupid Marimo. Sanji shook his fist at him. See you soon, Smokey. And everyone else too. Luffy waved with both his hands as the ship got further and further. So that's Twin Capes? Nami gasped at the mountain. It reached up high into the clouds and there was a waterway running down the valley, the middle, flowing down towards the ocean from the mountain. Yep. This is where we'll start. Luffy yelled. Nami looked down at the log post strapped to her wrist. It was her duty as the navigator to watch over it at all times. Once the log pose is set, we'll be able to head out. Luffy grinned. Hey, I see a lighthouse up ahead, Zoro pointed towards the prow of the ship. A small lighthouse loomed beside the valley, as if guarding it. You've been here before, Luffy? Sanji asked, joining them on the deck. Nope, this is my first time this far out from the headquarters. Other than a few times out on patrol and some meetings with the warlords, I didn't really get out much. Shishishi Luffy scratched his head. A loud bellow came from the front of the ship. What? What was that? Usopp stuttered, scanning the front of the ship. It sounded like a whale. Zoro crossed his arms. I don't see a whale? Sanji narrowed his eyes at the horizon. The water in front of the ship exploded up without any warning as a huge whale surfaced with a loud bellow. The whale was completely black in color and his huge size easily blocked the huge valley of the mountain. His eye alone was already several times bigger than Mary. At the front of his head, a number of barely healed scars could also be seen. My ears! Nami gasped, covering her ears to block out the whale's loud bellow. It's a huge whale. Luffy's eyes sparkled. What's it doing here? Sanji exclaimed. We're going to crash into it. Usopp cried. Turn the ship around. Zoro yelled, already heading for the wheel. As sudden as it surfaced, the whale dived back down under the water again with another loud bellow. The Straw Hats stood on the deck, unsure of what to do. As the ship got closer to the lighthouse, an old man appeared from within it. He wore a pink shirt with yellow and green stripes and had flower petals sticking out of his head where his balding line stopped. He had a rather impressive muscular body that was no doubt doubly more impressive when he was younger. He also had a prominently larger lower lip and on his face rested a pair of black framed glasses. His white beard reached below his neck and split into two parts, pointing in opposite directions sideways. What are Marines doing all the way out here? The old man scratched his head. Look! A flower! Sanji yelled, pointing at the old man. What are you Marines doing here? The old man crossed his arms. Oh, it's just a person. Sanji looked disappointed. Hey, old man. We're here to lock our log pose. Luffy yelled, waving his hand at him. Huh, I thought you guys might have came to help me with the whaling problem. The old man huffed, clearly disappointed. Whaling problem? The crew echoed. Indeed, my name is Crocus, I'm the keeper for this lighthouse. The whale that you saw earlier was Laboon, he's an island whale that has been living here for the past few decades or so. I see, we're Marines from the Straw Hat unit, what's this whaling problem you said? Sanji stepped up to the side of the ship. There's a pair of crooks that are trying to kill Laboon for a while now and I've already got my hands full taking care of the whale to catch them. You're taking care of the whale? Usopp gasped, wondering how much food the whale actually needs. More of watching over him than anything else. Crocus grunted. You see that waterway that's coming down the mountain? If you can't cross the calm belt, that's what you'll use to get into the Grand Line. Usually, pirates would be the ones who would use this route. From that waterway? How did they get up the mountain in the first place? Nami gasped. Crocus smirked, there's a reverse current that leads up to the mountain from each of the seas, any ship that gets sucked into the current will be carried up the mountain before ending up down here. Anyway, there's a couple of pirates that came here with Laboon quite some time ago, they were quite a lively bunch too if I say so myself. And Laboon? Sanji raised an eyebrow, watching the sea in case the whale comes back. Laboon had accompanied them from West Blue, apparently he had been separated by his pod and he had seen the pirates as his new family. But the crew had feared the Grand Line would be too dangerous to take him along, so they left him in my care. They had promised to return for Laboon once they sailed around the world but they never came back. Crocus sighed. So Laboon has been waiting. Zoro frowned. Indeed, for 50 years, no less. He still believes his friends would show up till this day. 50 years? The Straw Hats exclaimed. Indeed, and yet he still waits, bellowing at the mountain hoping his friends will return. Crocus sighed. To have so much faith in his friends, Laboon, you're so great. Usopp cried, tears spilling out. So these pirates. Are they? Nami gasped. Crocus shook his head slowly, they most probably died while in the Grand Line. Even if they hadn't, I doubt they would come back to this place. Have you not told the whale? Zoro raised an eyebrow. Crocus looked towards the sea sadly, I have tried, but Laboon would not listen to me. He insists that his friends are still alive on the other side of the world and spends every day crashing himself against the mountain. That would explain the scars. Sanji frowned. What about the ones trying to kill him? Nami asked, leaning against the railing of the ship. I don't know why they are doing this, but they usually show up during this time as Laboon surfaces from underwater. Crocus furrowed his brows. Don't suppose you Marines can lend me a hand? How do they look like? Zoro grinned, already unclasping his sword. Like that, Crocus pointed towards the male and female couple drifting on a raft, each one holding a bazooka in their hands. Why didn't you say so sooner? Nami yelled at him. Luffy ran up to the side of the ship, leaning over the railings. Hey guys. Luffy waved at them. The two turned to look at a boy in marine uniform waving at them. "Miss Wednesday, that marine seems to be waving at us," the man said to his partner. He had an ornate crown on top of his messy orange hair that was complemented by his royal green clothes. "It does seem so, Mr. Nine," the woman replied back. Her long, blue hair was tied back in a ponytail and she wore a fur coat over her spaghetti strap dress. "What do you suggest we do?" Mr. Nine narrowed his eyes at the Marines. "Perhaps it will be best for us to wave back?" Miss Wednesday suggested. Both of them began waving back to Luffy enthusiastically. "Hey!" They waved back. "They're such nice guys." Luffy grinned. "That's not how it works." His crew shouted at him incredulously. Usopp stepped towards the side, looking down at them. "Why are you trying to kill the whale?" Both the man and woman stared at each other before starting to break down on the raft. "Oh, it is a rather terrible story, you see," Mr. Nine sobbed. "Indeed, a very, very terrible story," Miss Wednesday sobbed beside him. "We come from a faraway town, you see," Mr. Nine pointed towards the horizon. "Indeed, a very, very faraway town," Miss Wednesday nodded. "We were sent here on a very important mission, you see," Mr. Nine wiped away his tears. "Indeed, a very important and secret mission," Miss Wednesday dabbed her tears with a handkerchief. "Shut up and get to the point," the Straw Hats yelled at them. "My, so inconsiderate," Mr. Nine huffed indignantly. "The town that we came from is short on food. If we can kill the whale, it would feed the town for the next 2 to 3 years," Miss Wednesday explained. "Oh, so you guys need food?" Sanji asked, suddenly alert. "Indeed, if we cannot find food soon, our whole town will starve." Mr. Nine started sobbing. "That is pretty serious, but isn't there any way you can get food other than from the whale?" Usopp asked. "Unfortunately no, our town's main source of income is from bounty hunting, but there hasn't been a successful hunt in a long while. Our town is flat broke. If we have no bounty to turn in, you Marines won't pay us." Miss Wednesday shook her head sadly. "Oh," Luffy hit his palm with a fist. "If that's the case, we have money and food too. There's no need for you to kill Laboon." "Luffy! Are you sure? You're going to give away our supplies to people you barely know?" Nami grabbed his arm quickly. "Why not? We don't really need that much money, do we?" Luffy tilted his head at Nami. "Not really, but..." Nami turned away from her Commodore, biting at her sleeves. "All that money?" Nami cried. You'll do that for us?" Mr. Nine gasped. "We can't see a bunch of people starve and not do anything, right?" Sanji grinned. "As long as you agree to not hurt Laboon," Usopp nodded, crossing his arms. Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday looked at each other. "Thank you, Marines. We are in your debt." They bowed their heads on their raft. "So where's your town?" Luffy asked, turning back to them. "It's at Whiskey Peak, on Cactus Island. It should only be a few days' sail away from here," Mr. Nine answered, rowing their raft towards their ship. "Nami, set a course for Whiskey Peak. That shall be the start of our patrol route." Luffy grinned at her. Commodore." Nami was slumped on the deck, tears streaming down her cheeks while drawing circles on the ground. "All that money?" A loud boom sound suddenly echoed from under the sea. What was that?" Usopp stuttered. "It's Laboon, he's crashing himself into the mountain again." Crocus sighed, taking off his shirt before diving straight into the sea. "Whoa! What's that old man going to do?" Sanji ran to the other side of the ship, watching the water. The booming sound continued for a few minutes as Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday pulled themselves up onto their ship. Everyone stared into the water as the boom continued for a while before it got softer and softer and then stopping abruptly. Laboon surfaced after a while, this time less violently than the first. Crocus stood on top of him, a giant syringe in his hands. "What's that? What did you do?" Usopp gasped. "I injected some sedatives to calm him down for now. It's the only way to stop him from hurting himself." Crocus sighed. I'm afraid I'm getting too old for this. One day, I might just not be able to help him before he kills himself. The Straw Hats looked up at the half-submerged whale, now currently docile. Luffy stepped up to the prow of the ship, crossing his arms. Laboon. Laboon's eye drifted down to look at the Marine. I know it is painful for you, these pirates are your family, right? Buh. Laboon wailed. They made a promise to you that they will come back for you, right? Boo-hoo. Laboon wailed again, tears forming at his eye. Even after 50 years, you still believe them to be alive, right? Boo-oo. Laboon started crying. On my word as a Marine, I'll head into the Grand Line and find your friends for you. So you don't need to hit your head against the mountain anymore. Luffy punched his hands in the air. Buh. Laboon wailed loudly, his tears flowing freely down into the sea. Heh, that kid. Crocus shook his head. How the hell did you make him listen to you, when I failed to do so all these years? Luffy took a few pots of paint and drew a crude-looking straw hat on Laboon's head. This shall be a mark of our promise. As long as this remains, I will continue to search for your friends. So don't scratch it by hitting the mountain. Buh. Laboon yelled in understanding. You guys, I've never seen Marines like you. Who are you guys? Crocus grinned. We're the Straw Hat Marines. Usopp grinned proudly at him. The Straw Hat Marines, eh? Weren't you guys who dealt with the most wanted in East Blue? Crocus scratched his chin. Yep, that's us. Sanji smirked at him. What are you doing over here at the Grand Line now? We had been stationed to the Grand Line after that. There are much more pirates here, after all. Nami grinned at him. Nami. Is the log post set on Whiskey Peak yet? Luffy jumped back on the ship. Nami checked the log pose. Yes, we can set off any time now. Onwards to Whiskey Peak. Chapter 12, Lost and Found. Flashback. Luffy clung onto Akiji's shoulders as the latter rode his bicycle through the waves. He watched as the ice path extended underneath the bicycle wheels as they cut through the sea. Akiji was humming a tune as he pedaled the bicycle as though it was an everyday occurrence. Teacher, where are we going? Luffy asked, not taking his eyes off the ice. There's an island nearby that some pirates are rampaging around, we're going to check it out. Akiji replied offhandedly. Luffy nodded before a gust of wind blew past them, blowing out a piece of paper that had been under Akiji's cloak. Luffy managed to catch it before it drifted away. Looking down at it, he realized it was a wanted poster of a girl. Teacher, who's this? Luffy poked Akiji's back. He turned to look over his shoulder, spotting the poster Luffy was holding in his hands. Oh. That girl. She's a wanted criminal. Akiji turned back to the front casually. Eh? Isn't she really young? What did she do? Luffy stared wide-eyed at the poster. The girl in the picture couldn't be more than 8 years old, but yet the reward for her was a stunning 79 million berries. She knows things that she shouldn't, Akiji said simply. And the things she knows are a threat to the world. Oh. What should I do if I see her? Luffy continued to stare at the poster. Akiji stopped the bicycle to turn and look at Luffy in the eye. This girl is the one exception I will make for you, Luffy. Exception? The holding back and accidentally killing people you kept telling me? Luffy gasped. Yes, if you ever see this girl. Akiji grasped Luffy by his shoulders, leaning close to him. Akiji's eyes were dead cold, even colder than the ice he makes. Luffy gulped as he knew his teacher was absolutely serious now. Kill her. Hey, so who are you guys, actually? Usopp asked Mr. 9 and Miss Wednesday. Yeah, you never really told us who you were, Sanji nodded, puffing on his cigarette. All of them were sitting on the deck waiting for Nami's next commands. The weather had so many dramatic changes the moment the crew had left Twin Cape that there was absolutely no time to rest. It could be snowing for a few minutes before a sudden lightning storm struck and a hurricane might be included into the mix. Nami had worked the whole crew to the bones, doing her best to keep the ship afloat with her navigation skills. After what seemed like hours of pulling up and letting down sails, repairing holes caused by icebergs and constantly turning the ship around, they finally had a moment's rest when they hit calmer waters. "We already told you, I'm Mr. Nine." Mr. Nine thumped his chest proudly. "And I'm Miss Wednesday." Miss Wednesday flicked her hair back. Usopp facepalmed. "No, really, who are you guys actually?" "We can't say, we come from an organization that's all hush, hush." Mr. Nine raised his index finger to his lips. "Yes, even if you're Marines, we still can't tell you because that's our motto." Miss Wednesday shook her head sadly. "Oh really now?" Zoro stepped up to them. "Now what's this organization you're talking about?" We can't say." Mr. Nine sweated a little. Yes. It's our policy." Miss Wednesday tried to smile. This policy sounds rather familiar to me. But I just can't put my finger on it." Zoro scratched his chin, smirking at them. "You must be mistaken then." Mr. Nine tried. "Yes, we're nothing but honest bounty hunters." Miss Wednesday glanced away. "I'll be watching you." Zoro's smirk grew wider before walking away. Usopp watched Zoro walk away with a raised eyebrow. What was that about? "Nothing, absolutely nothing." Mr. Nine shook his hands at him. "Indeed, absolutely nothing at all." Miss Wednesday nodded her head. "Suspicious." Both Usopp and Sanji mouthed. Nami stood at the back of the ship watching the clouds with Luffy beside her. Luffy seemed to be having a blast with all the chaos that was going around just now, and that annoyed Nami. "How were you even so calm back there?" Nami glared at Luffy. "This whole place is crazy. All of my navigation skills have failed to work. If it weren't for the crash course I got from Captain Smoker that time in Logtown, we'll all be in trouble." "Shishishishi, relax Nami, we'll be fine." Luffy laughed. "I've been here for the last 3 years after all. The weather will be the least of our worries once we hit the latter half of Paradise." "Paradise?" Nami stared at Luffy incredulously. "Yeah. That's what the first half of Grand Line is called." "This place is called Paradise?" Nami cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. "How can such a hellish place be called Paradise? So how far away are we, Nami?" Luffy grinned, leaning against the railing. "I don't know." Nami sighed, checking her log post to make sure they were still sailing in the right direction. "After everything that happened just now, we could be an hour, maybe even a week away. This place is scary. That's what makes this place so fun." Luffy chuckled. You monster." Nami wailed, slumping herself on the railing. Luffy patted Nami on the shoulder with a huge grin on his face before walking down the stairs to join the rest of the crew. "Luffy!" Zoro called out from the kitchen, beckoning him over. Zoro closed the door behind him as Luffy entered the room. "What is it, Zoro?" "Luffy, ever heard of this organization called Baroque Works?" Zoro folded his arms. "Baroque Works?" Luffy scratched his chin. "Is it some kind of company for water pipes?" "No," Zoro sighed. "It's some kind of underground criminal organization. It's an organization that no one knows about each other's real identities and demands absolute obedience from its members." "Criminal organization?" Luffy gasped. Zoro nodded grimly. "What's a criminal organization?" Luffy tilted his head. Zoro facepalmed. "Just take it that they are a bunch of criminals that slapped a name on themselves, alright?" Luffy nodded dumbly. "Anyway, these guys tried to recruit me once way back when I was a bounty hunter before. I refused, of course," Zoro snorted. "I couldn't agree with that absolute obedience part. The whole thing is all about secrecy and everyone in it has their own code name that they must use." "What about the boss?" Luffy tilted his head. "That's also a secret that no one in the organization knows either. In fact, it's the most closely guarded secret of the organization." Zoro frowned. So why did you bring this up now?" Luffy crossed his arms. Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday are both code names, Luffy. Zoro pointed out. Oh. So those two are part of the organization, huh? Luffy nodded in understanding. Indeed. We need to be wary. Zoro glanced towards the door leading to the deck. A few seconds passed by silently. EHHH? So those two are bad guys? Luffy yelled. You just realized? Zoro yelled back at him. Luffy began panicking, waving his arms in the air. Oh no! We let criminals on the ship. What should we do? Should we arrest them? But we promised to help them. Do I report this to HQ? What if they attack us? Calm down, damn it. Zoro knocked Luffy on the head. They don't know we know that yet, let's just see what happens and we'll decide what we'll do with them. Luffy nodded, clutching his head where Zoro had hit him. Luffy! Zoro! Usopp flung the kitchen door open. Hey! Come out guys, we're here. Here? Where? Zoro raised an eyebrow. Whiskey Peak, of course. Our first island on the Grand Line. Usopp pointed outside. Both of them rushed out after Usopp to the prow of the ship where everyone else was gathered. Right in front of the ship the silhouettes of giant cactuses could be seen. That's Cactus Island. Mr. Nine grinned. Whiskey Peak is just up ahead. Miss Wednesday pointed at the river opening. Full speed ahead. Luffy cheered, undoubtedly the most excited out of everyone. Welcome to Whiskey Peak. Miss Wednesday gestured towards the cheering town. The whole crew had received a warmer than expected welcome to the town. It seemed as though everyone in the town had specially came out to receive them. Hear this, my friends. Mr. Nine jumped up onto the railings of the ship, waving his hands at the crowd. These kind Marines have graciously decided to aid us in our food shortage problem. The town cheered even louder than before. All hail the Marines. Heroes of the sea. Mr. Nine cheered. Hail the Marines. Heroes of the sea. The town echoed. Wow. This place is awesome. Usopp grinned. Look at all the pretty ladies. Sanji waved, his eyes turning into heart shapes. As the ship lowered the gangplank for the crew to disembark, a tall gentleman with blonde curly hair stepped up to them with a broad smile. I welcome you Marines. I am Igarappoi, the mayor of this town of Whiskey Peak. The man bowed to them. On behalf of this town, I humbly thank you for your generosity. There's no need to be so formal, Luffy laughed, scratching his head in embarrassment. How much do you need? We couldn't ask much from our saviors, a measly 20 million would suffice for us to last, Igarappoi bowed again. 20 million? Nami cried. She pulled Luffy away, her arm around his neck as she leaned close to whisper, Luffy. Do we really have to help these people? He's asking for a third of all our money. We're Marines, right? We help people when they need help, Luffy raised an eyebrow as though he just said the most obvious thing in the world. Nami bit her finger. Is there any way we can help them without giving them our money, please? Nami pleaded with teary eyes. Well, what do you propose? Luffy scratched his head. They just need food, right? There's plenty of fish in the sea. We can just organize a fishing party out to get enough fish for the whole town. Okay, Luffy said simply. No, you don't understand, he's asking a whole third of our money. What if we meet some problems on the way? What if? Wait. Did you say okay? Nami stopped herself. Yeah, I mean, you did make sense there, right? Luffy grinned at her, turning to walk back to Igarappoi. Is there a problem, sir? The mayor sweated slightly. Yeah. My navigator did not agree to your terms, so she came up with a counter-proposal. Luffy grinned. What kind of counter-proposal? Igarappoi raised an eyebrow. I'll go help you guys catch some fish to eat. Luffy placed his hands on his hips. Fish? That would be a problem, you see, mister. Igarappoi gestured a hand towards Luffy. Luffy, Commodore Monkey D. Luffy, he finished for him. Yes, that would be quite a problem, you see, Mr. Luffy. Igarappoi gave a slight cough as he gestured to the town. Even though it is a possibility, the sea outside our town is quite dangerous. He looked towards the sea sadly. Indeed, sea kings are quite common in this area. Miss Wednesday shook her head sadly. Even if we went out to fish, we risk incurring the wrath of one, Mr. Nineside. Ugh. There's no other way then. Nami sighed. Sanji nodded. This explains everything. Oh? Then isn't your food problem solved then? Luffy tilted his head. Huh? Weren't you listening? There's sea kings out there, Mr. Luffy. Igarappoi narrowed his eyes at him. Yeah, why don't you just get one for food? Luffy grinned. Don't be ridiculous. Everyone yelled at him. Luffy pouted, give me 5 minutes. Luffy? What are you planning? Zoro raised an eyebrow at him. You're not actually going to fish, are you? Usopp shook slightly. Don't be ridiculous, Usopp, Luffy grinned at him. Oh good, for a moment there, I thought dash. I'm gonna go get a sea king. Luffy interrupted Usopp. Nami. Hold this for me. Luffy handed both his straw hat and marine cloak to her. What? Everyone yelled. Jeppo. Luffy launched himself out towards the sea, disappearing to a speck on the horizon within a second before diving into the sea. He's not actually going to do that. Is he? Miss Wednesday gasped. That's the scary thing. We don't know. Nami groaned. The crowd waited in silence, watching the calm sea as the minutes ticked by. A serpentine sea king exploded out from the water without warning, roaring up at a tiny figure that jumped out in front of it. The sea king easily matched up with Laboon in size, only that its mouth stretched open wider and its teeth were especially razor-sharp. He's doing it! Everyone cried, eyes popping out of their heads. They watched with open-mouthed shock as both the Sea King and Luffy crashed back into the water in an explosion of spray. They could hear Luffy's laughter all the way from here. The crazy bastard's actually enjoying it. Sanji gasped. And Mihawk's stronger than this guy. Zoro gritted his teeth. Is he human? Miss Wednesday covered her mouth. A few moments later, everyone gasped as the carcass of a giant sea king emerged in the bay. A soaked and chuckling Luffy climbed up onto land beside their ship. You guys ordered a sea king? Luffy grinned at them. You? How? Igarappoi gasped in open-mouthed wonder. Shishishishi, back when I was training with my GRA trainer, he had me tossed into the sea to fight with sea kings. That was also how I learned to swim. Eventually, Luffy chuckled. All the Straw Hats face-palmed. He's really not human. Nami groaned. Do all Marines have to go through this training, or is it just you? Sanji frowned, wondering how many actually survive past training if everyone had to go through that. I'm still so far from being a great warrior of the seas. Usopp sighed. This is the power that is common in the Grand Line. Zoro grinned. You're not hurt. Mr. Nine noted. Indeed. Not a single scratch, against a Sea King. Miss Wednesday paled. So I guess your food problem's solved with this, right? Luffy jerked his thumb at the Sea King with a huge grin plastered on his face. Indeed, Mr. Luffy. That thing can feed us for at least 2 years, if not more. I thank you again for your help. Igarappoi bowed to the Marine in gratitude. Shishishi. Don't mention it. Luffy laughed. This calls for a feast. We have more food than we can finish now. Throw a feast for our heroes. The mayor announced. The whole town cheered in agreement. And they were so worried about not having enough food moments ago. Sanji shook his head. The party began in earnest right after they had secured the Sea King to the harbor. There was plenty of food for everyone now, and the people of Whiskey Peak wasted no effort to show their heroes the best hospitality they had ever seen. Both Zoro and Nami found themselves participating in rowdy drinking contests with the various townspeople, including Mr. Nine. Usopp managed to find a group of wide-eyed admirers listening on his tales of being a brave warrior of the seas. Sanji found himself in heaven surrounded by a group of ladies that were doing their best to entertain him, and Luffy got to eat as much as he wanted from the Sea King he had defeated. Ha ha ha. It truly is a great day for us. Enjoy yourselves to your heart's content. Igarapoi laughed. The party carried on late into the night until most of the town had fallen asleep. Igarapoi stepped out of the tavern where most of the town had retired to, smiling to himself. Miss Wednesday followed him out, staring out to the bay where the marine ship was docked. That marine is strong. Miss Wednesday sighed. Indeed. I never thought I'll meet someone like that all the way out here. Igarapoi glanced back at the tavern's open door. Many of the bounty hunters that had disguised themselves to be town folks are sprawled all over the place, fast asleep. You're not thinking of recruiting him, are you? Miss Wednesday whispered to him. Recruiting who for what? A voice asked from behind them. Both turned to see a very muscular woman with dark-colored skin approach them. Her face was flushed, showing she had been drinking. Oh, Miss Monday. Miss Wednesday gasped. Mr. 8, you didn't join us in celebrating. Miss Wednesday too. Why don't you come drink with me? Miss Monday grinned at them, showing the 3 bottles of wine she held in her hands. It's all right, Miss Monday, go enjoy yourself, Igarapoi, otherwise Mr. 8, smiled at her. Suit yourselves, Miss Monday grinned, walking off to enjoy her alcohol in another part of town. Back on the topic, you're not actually thinking of asking him for help, are you? Miss Wednesday stared at Mr. 8. Why not? In fact, we should already report this to the Marines. We already know who's behind all this, don't we? Mr. 8 whispered. Miss Wednesday bit her thumb, but we still don't have proof. The Marines won't listen to us if we don't show them proof. Nonsense, Mr. 8 grasped Miss Wednesday's shoulders. You're the princess. Of course they'll listen to you. Shoo. Igaram. Shoo. You'll blow our cover. Miss Wednesday covered his mouth frantically. Princess. If we just report it to the Marines, we won't need to hide it anymore. Mr. 8 / Igarapoi / Igaram sighed. Igaram, we're still among enemies here. If they were to find out, we'll be finished before even going back. Miss Wednesday cried. Igaram turned back to check the tavern again. It's fine, princess. They're all passed out from partying after all. You guys really have me all confused now, so are you bounty hunters or not? A voice called out from above them. Both looked up fearfully to see a smirking Zoro sitting at the edge of the roof, a bottle of sake in his hand. You're one of the Marines. Igaram gasped. Didn't you pass out from drinking? A true swordsman never allows alcohol to take control of himself, he grinned, jumping down the building to join them. So how can I help you, Baroque works? Zoro smirked at them. Both Igaram and Miss Wednesday gasped, you know? Zoro nodded, one of his hands at his swords. Back when I was still a bounty hunter, they approached me and offered me a place among them. I refused, of course, but I'd never thought I'll meet you guys here. This makes things easier. Igaram stepped forward, not worried about Zoro's unclasped sword. Let me reintroduce ourselves. I am Igaram, captain of the Alabasta Royal Guards. Royal Guards? Zoro raised an eyebrow, his hand leaving his swords. Yes, and here is Nefertari Vivi, princess of the Alabasta Kingdom. Princess? Nami gasped from behind Zoro. You're awake too? Zoro turned to her. Nami grinned, of course. You think that little alcohol is able to knock me out? Heh, I'm up for more. Zoro rolled his eyes and turned back to them. So what's a princess and the captain of the Royal Guards doing in a criminal organization? Vivi lowered her head. My country, Alabasta, is currently torn by civil war. We managed to track down the organization that has been instigating the revolutionaries, but we couldn't find out who was leading it. I take it the organization is? Zoro raised an eyebrow. Both Igaram and Vivi nodded. So you infiltrated it as one of them? Nami asked. Vivi nodded. Indeed, I had Igaram and I join the organization as one of their own to find out their secrets from the inside. And what did you find? Zoro crossed his arms. The boss of this organization spread lies to his subordinates about building an ideal nation, but in reality he aims to take over the kingdom of Alabasta. If I don't return with this information, my country will fall into his hands. Vivi gritted her teeth. My, aren't you the brave princess? Zoro smirked at her. Princess Vivi cares for her country more than herself, Igaram sighed. I was originally against the idea. But she had said that she would go regardless of whether I followed or not. Did you say, Princess Vivi? Luffy stepped out from the tavern. Oh, you're actually awake, what a surprise, Nami grinned at Luffy. Luffy stared at Vivi. Your Nefertari Vivi, Princess of Alabasta? Yee. Yes. Vivi stuttered, seeing the serious looks in his eyes. You've been reported missing for quite some time now. Luffy noted, not taking his eyes off her. Yes, we never informed anyone of our plans, Igaram answered for her. I see. So who's the one behind all this? Luffy's eyes stayed serious. Vivi clenched her fists. It's one of the 7 warlords. Crocodile. The 7 warlords? Nami gasped. Luffy furrowed his brows at the mention of the name. Luffy, you know him? Zoro glanced at his Commodore. Luffy shook his head. I never met him. But my trainer never had anything good to say about him. So what do you plan to do? Nami turned back to Vivi. We both need to get back to Alabasta to warn my people about Baroque Works' intentions. I cannot allow my people to play into Crocodile's hands. Vivi cried. Luffy, Nami and Zoro turned to look at one another, nodding. I guess, that's that, we'll escort you back to your home. Nami grinned. I'll report to headquarters about Crocodile's treachery too, Luffy smirked. Footsteps echoed down a dirt path just as they were about to leave. Everyone turned to see a couple walking towards them confidently. More bounty hunters? Zoro crossed his arms. Igaram and Vivi both took a frightful step back. Those two, they're Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine. Vivi gasped. Zoro narrowed his eyes, hands going to his swords again. More Baroque Works agents? The lower the number, the stronger the agent. Igaram stepped in front of Vivi protectively. Kaya ha ha ha. My, what have we here? Do I see Mr. 8 and Miss Wednesday collaborating with Marines? Miss Valentine snickered, twirling the umbrella in her hand. Why are you here? Vivi demanded. We received a report from the boss saying his secret got found out. Though what secret it was, we have no clue, Mr. 5 said simply, his eyes unreadable beneath his sunglasses. And we have information that 2 little rats from a certain kingdom has infiltrated our organization, Miss Valentine sneered. Both Vivi and Igaram gasped. And you know what we do with rats? Mr. 5 picked his nose casually. Everyone tensed. We dispose of them, he flicked his booger at the group. Just as the projectile neared them, it exploded suddenly, engulfing all of them in the blast. Kaya ha ha ha. That was easier than I thought, Miss Valentine snickered. They were about to turn their backs when the smoke cleared to reveal Luffy standing still with his right palm raised towards them, smoke clearing from his palm. TCH, at least tell us if you're gonna do something like that, Zoro frowned, his sword's already drawn. Ha? You're not bad for a marine, Miss Valentine snickered. What's going on? A few bounty hunters stuck their head out of the tavern. Perfect timing, agents. Those 2 are spies from the kingdom of Alabasta, the boss has ordered their execution. Mr. 5 pointed towards Vivi and Igaram. The bounty hunters looked between the 2 groups, hesitating. Mr. 8? Miss Wednesday? They're spies? What should we do? The boss ordered it after all. Go wake the rest. The bounty hunters poured out of the tavern, each with a weapon in hand. Luffy frowned at this. The people who he had just been feasting with moments ago have drawn their weapons against them. Nami, go wake Usopp and Sanji and take Vivi and Igaram to our ship. Luffy cracked his knuckles. Aye, sir. Nami grinned, running into the tavern. Zoro, I'll leave the small fries to you. Zoro smirked, his swords ready, with pleasure. You stupid Marines, can't you see you're outnumbered? One of the bounty hunters waved his weapon at them. Zoro stepped out, his bandana already tied around his head. Only weaklings care about numbers. He charged towards them, swords by his side. Shoot him. The bounty hunters fired their guns. Zoro zigzagged through the hail of bullets, reaching the first guy before they could fire their second rounds. Onigiri. Zoro slashed his swords at them, cutting through their weapons and flinging them away from him. Meddlesome brats. Mr. Five flung another of his booger at him. Luffy appeared in front of Zoro, blocking another explosion. Your opponent is me. So be it, Marine. Mr. Five rolled up his sleeves, cracking his knuckles. Nami appeared from the tavern, dragging a still groggy Usopp and Sanji with her hands. Vivi, Igaram. Let's go. Nami sprinted down towards the bay where their ship was anchored. They're getting away. Get them. The bounty hunters of Baroque Works picked up their weapons to follow them. Zoro dashed out in front of them, swords pointed menacingly at them. You'll have to get through me first. Taka Nami. Dashing in front of the crowd, he slashed his swords in an arc, causing a gust of wind to cut through the bounty hunters, blood spraying from those that had been cut. He looked down at his bloodied sword with disapproval. Sandai Kitetsu. A sword should only cut what its master wants to cut. I still have a long way to go to be the best. Zoro flinched back as a bounty hunter slashed his sword at him, bringing the sword in his other hand forward to parry before swinging his head downwards, cutting the man down with Wada Wikamanji in his mouth. All of you are just small fires to me, don't get ahead of yourselves. Zoro smirked at them. One of the bounty hunters smirked back at him. It doesn't matter, we just needed to keep you here. What? Zoro raised his eyebrow. We already sent a group ahead to lie in ambush for them. There's nowhere to run. The bounty hunter's smirk got wider. You bastards. Zoro turned to the direction where Nami had ran off to. You shouldn't turn your back to us. The bounty hunters leaped towards him. Zoro's eyes flashed. I don't have time for you guys if that's the case. He slashed out with all three of his swords before turning around to chase after Nami. The bounty hunters that had leapt towards him all collapsed in a pile, already unconscious. And now you're alone, Mr. Five smirked. Kaya ha ha ha. Maybe I should go take care of them too? Miss Valentine laughed, leaping into the air and using her umbrella to float towards the bay. Mr. Five charged at Luffy, his arm raced to hit Luffy. Just so you know, I ate the Bomu Bomu fruit. I can make any parts of my body explode. Bomb punch. Luffy grabbed the exploding fist with his hand, his eyes glared straight at Mr. Five. You? How? Mr. Five stuttered, unable to pull his hand back from Luffy. Luffy grinned devilishly. Now that I'm in the Grand Line, my restrictions are lifted. What the hell are you talking about? Mr. Five yelled at him. He reached forward with his other hand to grab onto Luffy's shoulder and pull him into a bear hug. But it's still your mistake to let me come so close. Zenshin Kabaku. Mr. Five's whole body detonated in a huge explosion, tossing a miniature mushroom cloud into the air. What was that? Usopp turned his head to see the mushroom cloud. I don't know, just keep running. They're going to catch up. Nami yelled, turning to glance at the mob of bounty hunters currently chasing them. TCH. I should be able to take them all on, no problems. Sanji frowned. No, our priority is to get the princess to safety first. Nami yelled back at him. Sanji leaped forward with hearts in his eyes. Understood, Nami-swan. I shall do my best to escort Vivi-chwan. A girl crashed down in front of them, creating a crater in the ground. Miss Valentine. Vivi gasped, coming to a stop. Kaya ha ha ha. You're not going anywhere, princess. Miss Valentine laughed. Princess. Get back! Igaram pulled his necktie strings, revealing gun barrels hidden in the curls of his hair. Igara Papa! Igaram pulled the loops of the stings, firing the 6 rounds of explosive bullets at her. The bullets exploded in a cloud of dust just as she leaped up into the air. Kaya ha ha ha! You can't get me that easily. Miss Valentine laughed. With the power of my kilo fruit, I can freely change my weight from 1 to 10,000 kilograms. Now taste the weight of 5,000 kilograms. She closed her umbrella and dropped down from the air suddenly, smashing Igaram into the ground. Igaram! Vivi cried, brandishing a small sharp jewel attached to a long wire. Nami took out her staff as well, twirling it to point at Miss Valentine. TCH, those guys already caught up to us. Sanji turned to see the bounty hunters approaching them. Kaya haha. You think you fools stand a chance? You guys are surrounded. Miss Valentine laughed, lifting her foot off the groaning Igaram. None of you will be getting of this island. Exploding star. A small projectile flew towards her and exploded, causing Miss Valentine to be blasted back a few meters. TCH. So meddlesome. Miss Valentine spat, having used the knockback of the blast to escape into the air again, unseen by the rest. All of you go ahead, I'll take on these bounty hunters. Sanji lit a cigarette as he stepped in front of the charging mob. I'll stay with you too. Usopp stood beside Sanji, already drawing his slingshot. Nami nodded at him before pulling Vivi away. No. What about Igaram? Vivi cried. Sanji gave her a thumbs up. We'll carry him back after we're done, no worries. Sanji turned back to face the mob alongside a shaking Usopp. I'd say there are about 50 or so of them. You think you can take them? I'm a great warrior. 50 is nothing. Usopp held his slingshot steady. Then back me up. Sanji leaped towards the crowd, legs poised ready to strike. How are you still alive? Mr. Five gasped as he stepped back from Luffy. His whole body was smoking from the explosion, but no visible burns were present, not even on his clothes. On closer inspection, Mr. Five noticed the whole of Luffy's body had turned black. Who are you? Mr. Five demanded. Commodore Monkey D. Luffy of the Marines, Luffy said simply, walking towards Mr. Five calmly. Nose fancy cannon. Mr. Five flicks another piece of explosive snot at Luffy, exploding harmlessly against his hockey-infused skin. You. Stay away. I'll dash. Luffy dashed forward and released his hockey, his skin turning back to normal. He gritted his teeth as he punched Mr. Five in the gut and sent him crashing into a nearby building. Luffy dusted his cloak. You talk too much. Luffy turned as a crashing sound resounded from the bay. It must be the other agent. Luffy frowned, running to catch up with his crew. Lead star. Usopp shot his projectile cleanly in between the bounty hunter's eyes. You bastard. The bounty hunter screamed, dropping his gun and clutching at his eye. From the side, Sanji jumped out towards him, legs aimed at the bounty hunter. Collier shoot. The other bounty hunters watched as their comrade was kicked into a nearby building, smashing through the wall. You guys aren't much after all. Sanji smirked, landing on his feet. Damn. I didn't know these Marines are this strong. But if we don't kill them, the boss will kill us anyway. We have no choice but to fight then. The bounty hunters charged towards the 2 Marines. It wouldn't do if you turn your backs on me, you know? Zoro grinned from behind, having finally caught up to them. Another Marine? A bounty hunter gasped. Sanji smirked. What took you so long, stupid Marimo? Got lost? Shut up, shitty cook, let's do this. Zoro unsheathed his swords. Usopp. Give us some cover. Sanji grinned, leaping towards the bounty hunters again. Usopp returned the grin. You got it. Smoke star. Usopp fired a ball towards the bounty hunters that exploded into a thick cloud of smoke. Sanji lands on top of a bounty hunter with his hands, spinning himself on his head. Party table kick course. Every bounty hunter that was near him received a nasty kick in the face, sending them flying out of the smoke. With a final spin, Sanji flips himself back up and kicks the bounty hunter below him away as well. Tatsumaki. Zoro slashed through the smoke, a miniature tornado forming and blowing both the smoke and the rest of the bounty hunters away. Sanji and Zoro both turned away from the carnage just as the last bounty hunter hit the floor, unconscious. Not too shabby, Marimo, Sanji grinned. Same to you, shitty cook, Zoro grinned back. Nami continued to run as their ship came into view. There it is, Vivi. We're almost there. A person crashed out of the sky, bringing the two to a stop. Miss Valentine? Vivi gasped. Nami frowned, whipping out her staff. Didn't she get blown away by Usopp just now? Kaya ha ha ha. You fools think you can match up to Baroque works? Miss Valentine laughed. Vivi frowned. Karoo. Give me a hand here. A large duck jumped out from an alley, quacking loudly and sticking out one of his wings to Vivi. I didn't mean literally. Vivi cried. Kaya ha ha ha. What a bunch of fools. I'll have all of you die here now. Miss Valentine leaped into the air again. Miss Wednesday, a pair of footsteps rushed towards them. Vivi turned to see the approaching figures of Mr. Nine and Miss Monday waving at her. Was what I heard true? Are you really the Princess of Alabasta? Mr. Nine gaped. Yes, it's all true. Your organization has been looking to destroy my country all this while. Vivi yelled towards him, tears in her eyes. 1,000 kilograms. Miss Valentine yelled from above, crashing down towards Vivi. Look out! Nami gasped. Vivi looked up just as Mr. Nine pushed her away, taking the brunt of the impact. Mr. Nine! Vivi gasped. Why? Miss Wednesday. Miss Monday stepped in front of her, facing Miss Valentine. We've been working together for quite a while. We may have been here for different agendas, but I know Mr. Nine and I feel the same. Miss Monday turned to grin at her. You're our friend no matter what. Huh, so you are all betraying us just for that? Kaya ha ha ha. How foolish. Miss Valentine laughed. Miss Monday gritted her teeth as she charged towards her, aiming to tackle her onto the ground. Useless. Miss Valentine flipped herself up and over on top of Miss Monday, holding onto her head. Let's see that super strength of yours, Miss Monday. 10,000 kilograms. Miss Monday was smashed into the ground by the sheer weight of Miss Valentine. Miss Monday. Mr. Nine gasped, crawling out of the crater he had been smashed into, coughing up blood. Miss Monday groaned weakly as Miss Valentine stepped off her, turning to face Vivi again. You're not going anywhere, Princess, Miss Valentine grinned. Both Nami and Vivi gasped, staring at her. Miss Valentine smirked until a hand rested on her shoulders. She turned to come face to face with the Marine Commodore and his 3 commanders behind him. You! What happened to Mr. 5? Miss Valentine gasped, flinging herself away from him. The same thing that's going to happen to you, Luffy said simply, advancing towards her. Miss Valentine leaped up into the air again. Don't get so full of yourself, Marine. 10,000 kilograms. Miss Valentine laughed as she plummeted towards Luffy, leg poised to strike him. Armament, Luffy clenched his black-colored right hand and punched towards her foot. There was no contest as Miss Valentine was flung back into the sky until she disappeared. The strength to defeat a Sea King. Vivi gasped at the sky. Princess. Igaram gasped, his head was bleeding profusely. Sanji and Zoro had him propped up in between them. That's when she realized Igaram had changed his clothes and hair to resemble hers. Igaram! Why are you dressed like that? Vivi frowned. Igaram stepped towards her with shaky legs. Princess, I have a plan. Once Baroque Works learns of what happened here, they will no doubt send pursuers after us. What do you intend to do? If you will, pass me the eternal log for Alabasta, I will lure the pursuers away from you, while you travel the normal route towards Alabasta. Igaram said in between gasps. But you'll be in danger, Vivi protested. Igaram smiled a little at that. I'm the captain of the Royal Guards. If I can't place my life on the line to protect you, I can never face your father again. Igaram, Vivi gasped. Relax, Miss Wednesday. Miss Monday limped towards Vivi with Mr. Nine by her side. We'll go with him as well. Miss Monday, Mr. Nine. Vivi felt tears streaming down her cheeks. If you will, Princess, the eternal pose, please. Igaram stuck his hand towards her. What's an eternal pose? Nami tilted her head. Taking the eternal pose from Vivi, Igaram showed it to her. An eternal pose is like your log pose except it only points to a single island no matter where you go. I see. Nami nodded, making another mental note in her mind. I'll see you again in Alabasta, Princess. Igaram smiled at Vivi. Stay safe, Igaram. Mr. Nine, Miss Monday, you too. Both Miss Monday and Mr. Nine gave her a thumbs up. As they watched Igaram alongside with Miss Monday and Mr. Nine set sail on the boat, Nami turned to her Commodore. Aren't you going to report this back to headquarters? Luffy scratched his head, smiling awkwardly. About that. That Mr. Five Guy's explosion kinda blew up my den mushy. What? His crew gasped at him. So we're on our own? Usopp cried. Well, until I can get my hands on another one. Luffy smiled sheepishly. I can't believe you. Nami face-palmed. Just as they turned to leave for their ship, a huge explosion set off in the horizon, consuming the decoy ship in a sea of flames. Pursuers already? Zoro yelled. We have to leave now. Sanji raced towards their ship. Nami. Is the log pose set? Usopp turned to Nami. Nami glanced down at her log pose. Yes. We're ready to set sail. Vivi. Nami looked at Vivi to see a trickle of blood flowing down her lips. Nami grabbed her hand and pulled her away. It's all right, Vivi. We promise you we'll bring you back to your home. Luffy. We have to go. Zoro yelled at his stationary Commodore. Crocodile. Luffy yelled towards the sea. The crew watched solemnly on their ship as the flames slowly died down. Vivi was doing her best to hold back her tears as Karoo tried his best to comfort her. It's almost morning, Zoro pointed out. The crew looked towards the horizon as the sun just began to peek out from the sea. Be careful of the rocks, and congratulations on your escape. A voice sounded behind them. The crew turned to see a woman wearing a cowgirl outfit complete with knee-high leather boots and a cowgirl hat sitting on the railing above them. Vivi stepped back in fear. What? What are you doing out here? Miss All Sunday. Well, I must say, I never expected to see Miss Monday and Mr. Nine alongside Mr. 8. Miss All Sunday smirked. You're the one who did that. Vivi screamed at her. Who's her partner? Nami asked. Vivi furrowed her eyebrows. Crocodiles. She's the only one in the whole organization that knows this. Igaram and I had to tail her to find this out. Miss All Sunday giggled. Technically, I let you tail me. I already knew that. You told him that his identity was leaked too, didn't you? What do you want from us? Don't need to get so worked up, little princess. I only let you follow me because you looked so desperate. She narrowed her eyes at Vivi with a wicked smile. And it was just too amusing to watch a single lonely princess fight a futile battle against our organization to save her homeland. Though it seems you have finally managed to contact the Marines. You? Vivi glared at her. Before anyone could respond, Luffy had appeared on the railing beside her. Miss All Sunday gasped as she was lifted up by her collar to face the Commodore. You? Luffy began, just as hands sprouted out from his shoulders to chop at his neck. Armament, Luffy said simply, not even flinching as the hand struck him. Why did you lie? What are you talking about? Miss All Sunday gasped at the Marine. I know you didn't kill the ones on the ship, I can still hear their voices. Luffy stared hard at her, not letting go. Is that true? Luffy? Vivi cried. Ugh. Who are you? Miss All Sunday winced. Commodore Monkey D, Luffy, a Marine. Monkey D. Miss All Sunday raised an eyebrow at him, just as Luffy let go of her. So you're Crocodile's partner? Luffy stared at her. She nodded at him slowly. I want you to send a message to him, tell him we're coming to kick his ass. Miss All Sunday widened her eyes, you're serious? You do know he's one of the 7 warlords? Even if you have evidence against him, you can't do anything to him. What do you mean? Zoro raised an eyebrow. I heard you lost your Den Den Mushi, without any reinforcements, there's no way any of you are actually able to beat him. He's just too strong. Miss All Sunday frowned at them. Luffy grinned, so you actually want him to be beaten? Miss All Sunday flinched back, No, Perhaps. Luffy's grin grew wider, you're not a bad girl after all, huh? Everyone stared at Luffy incredulously. Bring my message to Crocodile, then we'll come and kick his ass for you. Miss All Sunday looked at the Marine's eyes, he was absolutely serious. She slumped her shoulders, pulling out an eternal pose. This is an eternal to an uninhabited island near Alabasta, you can use it to get there instead. Don't want it, Luffy crossed his arms. Why? His crew shouted at him. Even if we're helping you, don't think you can choose the path of our journey, Luffy pouted at her. Miss All Sunday revealed a slight grin, I see. You're different from the other Marines. Of course. Luffy huffed. Alright then, I shall await your arrival on Alabasta. She jumped over the side of the ship, landing on a waiting giant tortoise. Don't die on the next island, she flashed him a grin. You better deliver my message. Luffy waved after her. Chapter 13, Great Warriors of the Sea. A man wearing a blue striped vest and dress pants walked past the unconscious bounty hunters of Whiskey Peak. His top knot was tied into a visible 3 and his glasses and frail build made him look like a nerdy office worker, only to be marred by his devilish smirk he had plastered on his face. Beside him, a small girl carrying a paint set walked calmly, munching on a rice cracker. A large pink hat sat on her dark red hair that was tied into twin braided pigtails. She wore a dark blue t-shirt that had the word golden printed on the front that was partly covered by the sky blue shirt she wore over it. Her maroon-colored skirt barely covered her blue and white striped stockings underneath it. Both of them stopped in front of an unconscious Mr. 5 lying among the rubble of a collapsed building. So this is what you've been reduced to, huh? The man smirked at Mr. 5. If only Mr. 2 had been the one beaten here, I could have been promoted. Mr. 3. Had Mr. 2 been defeated here, it would mean we didn't stand a chance against them in the first place. The girl prodded her paintbrush at him. Miss Golden Week, you forget that I'm more superior in tactical planning than Mr. 2, Mr. 3 smirked wickedly. As long as I know my enemy, there's no way I would lose. Miss Golden Week sighed dramatically, continuing to munch on her rice crackers. Mr. 5 stirred suddenly, coughing and pushing himself up on the debris. He gasped when he saw the two standing in front of him. Huh, so you're not dead? Mr. 3 rolled his eyes, disappointed. Mr. 5 got up on unsteady legs, grasping at his chest as he spat out the blood in his mouth. Leaning against a pillar, he frowned at Mr. 3, the spy. Contacted the Marines. Both Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week flinched at this. TCH. We have to get rid of them before they can request for reinforcements. Mr. 3 frowned. What do they look like? A screech sounded on top of a building nearby. All 3 of them turned to see a vulture wearing black goggles and an aviator cap staring down at them. Beside it was an otter wearing a pair of sunglasses and a skin-tight blue coat with purple dots. The unluckies? What are they doing here? Miss Golden Week frowned. The otter took out a few pieces of paper and dropped it towards them, sniffing at them with disdain. Mr. 3 picked up one of the pieces to find a drawing of a marine wearing a straw hat. That's one of them, Mr. 5 frowned. So you two saw everything. And you didn't help at all? The otter and vulture pointedly ignored the fuming Mr. 5. So this is every one of them, huh? Mr. 3 grinned wickedly at the 5 drawings of marines. They shouldn't be too far away now. If they had followed the normal route, they should be at Little Garden now. Mr. 5 raised an eyebrow. What do you propose? You, my friend, will have your work cut out for you. If we leave now, we might still catch them before they reach Little Garden. Mr. 3 grinned wickedly. You mean, I'm still in? You're not going to get rid of me for failing? Mr. 5 furrowed his brows at him. Mr. 3 smirked. Consider this your second chance for making up for your blunder. You still have your uses after all. Miss Goldenweek prodded Mr. 3 with her paintbrush again. We have yet to find Miss Valentine. TCH. Where can she be? We'll be late to catch them at this rate. Mr. 3 spat, turning to look at the rest of the town. Luffy. Is what you said back there true? Vivi grasped Luffy's shoulders. Luffy nodded quickly. I heard their voices among the flames, though it felt weak, they were still alive. You heard their voices? I didn't hear anything. Were they screaming or something? Zoro frowned. Luffy scratched his chin. It's not literal voices that I'm hearing, it's sort of like an aura that everyone emits and I can feel them with my haki. What's haki? Sanji tilted his head. Everyone stared at the Commodore expectantly. Air. It's. Luffy scratched his head. My trainer tried explaining it to me before, but I didn't really understand what he was saying either. It's some sort of power that everyone has within themselves that they have to unlock or something. It seems if you can unlock it, you will be several times stronger than before. So even we can learn them? Usopp asked hopefully. Yeah. It's present in everyone, you just have to unlock yours. Luffy grinned. So? How did you get yours? Nami tilted her head. It took me quite a while actually. Luffy held up his hand as he pointed at his fingers to count. My trainer first tossed me into a cage full of lions, then had me survive a week in a jungle full of bears alone, then had me dodge a barrage of cannonballs he would throw at me, then made me fight sea kings by myself. Okay. We get it. You're a monster. Nami lifted up a hand to stop him. I guess I'll never learn haki then. Usopp sighed. Oh, don't worry about that. My trainer told me that if you're exposed to more danger, the more likely you'll be to unlock haki by yourself. Luffy grinned sheepishly. Yeah. I doubt any of us would be able to survive what you just listed out, Mr. Commodore. Vivi shook her head. Ha? So all I have to do is expose myself to danger, huh? Zoro gripped his swords. Air. Something like that. There was also something about directing your body's energy or something. Luffy folded his arms to think. Everyone stared at him again. I forgot. Shishi. Luffy scratched his head in embarrassment. Everyone's sweat dropped. Putting that aside, I see an island ahead. Is that the next stop? Luffy pointed to the silhouette ahead. Nami brought her log pose up to her eye, matching the needle's position to the island. She nodded in satisfaction. Indeed it is. That's our second island of Grand Line. Full speed ahead. I smell an adventure. Luffy yelled. This smell wouldn't have anything to do with that haki now, would it? Usopp frowned. What did you say this island was called again? Zoro turned to Nami, who held a book in her hands. Little Garden, she gulped. This place doesn't look good. Why not? Vivi glanced at Nami. It's an island that is trapped in the dinosaur age. Dinosaurs? The crew yelled. Nami nodded slowly, flipping through the book she held in her hands. I heard about these kinds of islands before. Vivi's eyes widened. Because of the difficulty in navigating in the Grand Line, there are many islands that have never been touched by man, resulting in many different cultures spanning across the Grand Line. Usopp's legs were shaking in fear. So, you're saying this island is trapped in the time when dinosaurs were rampant in the world? Vivi finished. Guys, is it possible to skip this island? Usopp clung onto the ship's mast, crying. Quack! Karoo agreed with him, cowering beside him. Not possible. We need to record the island's magnetic fields in order to go to the next island. Nami frowned. If we were to leave without recording it, the log pose would just point back to this island. It's just a couple of giant lizards, right? Zoro smirked. Don't worry, Namaswan, Vivi-chuan. I'll protect you. Sanji pirouetted around the deck. Let's go look at the dinosaurs. Luffy punched the air. I'm surrounded by idiots. Nami sighed. Listen, all we have to do is just remain on the boat until the log pose has been recorded, understand? Nami wagged a finger at the crew. There's no need for any of us to step foot inside the island. But that's boring. Luffy protested, rolling around on the deck. Is he really a Marine Commodore? Vivi stared at Luffy incredulously. You better believe it, Zoro nodded. Though you already saw how strong he was. Vivi sighed, remembering how Luffy was laughing while fighting a Sea King. No sane man could have done the same as he did. Luffy jumped up from the deck, puffing his chest and striding to the side of the ship. Before he could jump off, Nami grabbed him by the back of the collar and pulled him back. Where do you think you're going? I don't want to stay. I want to explore. Luffy pouted. I said no. It's too dangerous. Nami gripped his collar tighter. Nami. I highly doubt there's anything on the island that can hurt him. Vivi tried to placate the fuming navigator. The others on the crew nodded to themselves in agreement. What about us? Nami cried. Sanji pirouetted to her side. I'll protect you, Nami-swan. Can I go? Please, Nami? Luffy looked at her pleadingly. You? Arg. Fine. But only until the log pose is set. Nami released his collar. Yay! Luffy leaped over the ship, disappearing into the forest. Usopp tapped Nami on her shoulder. Nami. Do you actually know how long it will take the pose to set? Nami grasped her head as she let out a silent scream. I thought so. Usopp sighed. Just as they were deciding on what to do, Zoro hopped over the railing onto the island as well. Where do you think you're going? Nami yelled at him. Seeing as we might be here for a while, I might as well go see if I can find some danger to get myself into. Zoro shrugged. Stop right there. Nami yelled, a tick forming on her head. Yeah, you stupid Marimo. Don't just run off on your own. Sanji yelled after him. Nami sighed in relief, finally someone else who actually had some sense on the ship. If you're going, at least hunt some animals to bring back, we're almost out of food. Zoro waved back in acknowledgement while Nami collapsed on the deck, finally giving up. Vivi knelt down to hug her, trying her best to console the weeping navigator. Sanji turned just as he heard a soft pop coming from below deck. He frowned as he strained his ears, catching the soft thumps of footsteps coming from below. You guys hear that? Sanji stood protectively in front of the girls. Hear what? Usopp looked around, frightened that a dinosaur might come out. Footsteps. There's someone else on the ship. Sanji frowned. A soft thump emanated from below their feet. Usopp hid himself behind the mast. It can't be. Dinosaurs snuck themselves onto the ship? Don't be ridiculous. Vivi frowned. The footsteps sounded human. Sanji threw open the hatch that led below deck to the storage. I'm going to check it out. He descended the ladder carefully, eyes scanning the darkness for movement. He tiptoed quietly to the storage room where most of the alcohol was stashed. Pushing the door slowly, he peered through the crack to see a figure hunched over one of the barrels, dropping something inside it. Hey! What are you doing? Sanji bursts into the room, finding Mr. 5 inside. TCH, just had to be you. Fancy nose cannon. Sanji flung himself out of the way as the explosive snot sailed past him, exploding on the pillar behind and throwing up a cloud of smoke. You bastard! Sanji kicked his leg at where he had last seen him, but Mr. 5 was already gone. Sanji! What's going on? Usopp called out from above the deck. Sanji clucked his tongue as he checked the barrels filled with alcohol. Some of them had their lids pried open before it was covered back hastily. I think a Baroque Works agent tried to poison our alcohol. Sanji started identifying the ones that had been tampered with and pushed them aside. Baroque Works? They're on the island? Vivi gasped. I guess they caught up to us sooner than we thought. Nami frowned. What should we do? As if having dinosaurs around us isn't bad enough already. Usopp groaned. A stomping sound came from the shore as the ship shook from each stump. All three humans and one duck on the deck turned just as a giant shadow loomed across the ship. All of them gasped at the giant that towered over them, a wicked-looking axe in his hands. Hey, you guys got any rum? The giant grinned. This place is awesome. Luffy grinned, looking at the dinosaurs all around him. They're almost as big as the bears in the forest Gramps had dumped me in. Luffy spotted a brachiosaurus with an especially long neck grazing on the treetops. He immediately jumped on its back and climbed up to its head, using it to take a look around the island. Wow! Nami was right. This whole island is full of dinosaurs and volcanoes. This place is so cool. Luffy grinned. Just as he was about to climb back down, the dinosaur flipped its head upwards, sending Luffy into the air in an attempt to bite him. You want to eat me? Like hell I'd let you. Rankyaku! Luffy kicked the blade of air at the dinosaur, slicing its neck clean off. Luffy landed on one of the treetops, hands on his hips as he huffed indignantly. Gegyo Jaya Jaya. Aren't you a strong one? A powerful voice laughed from behind. Luffy turned to see a helmet-wearing giant laughing down at him. He had a cape draped around his shoulders and a Viking helmet sat proudly on his head. In his hands he carried a chipped sword that had seen many years of constant use and a battered shield strapped to his other hand. Wow! Are you a giant? Luffy's eyes sparkled at him. Gegyo Jaya Gya. Indeed I am. My name is Dory, Elbaf's strongest warrior. Dory laughed heartily. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. A Marine. Nice to meet you. Luffy grinned back. I haven't had guests around here in a long time. Why don't I invite you to my place? Dory stretched out a palm for Luffy to ride on. Sounds good. Luffy hopped on to the open palm. I need to become stronger. Zoro gripped his swords. That hockey thing seems like a useful skill. I'll need to expose myself to more danger then. A triceratops stomped into his tracks, stopping to regard Zoro with hostile eyes. Ha! You'll do, for a start. Zoro unsheathed his swords. Gabba-babba-ba. I haven't had guests in a very long time. My name is Broggy, greatest warrior of Elbaf. The giant laughed, sitting in front of his home. Vivi, Nami, Usopp and Karoo shivered as the giant laughed, while Sanji was off to the side, watching over a spit roasting a huge chunk of dinosaur meat. Broggy, how did you get these spices? They smell exquisite. Sanji pinched a few plants from a large pouch that sat beside the cooking spit. Gabba-babba-ba. You're a cook, I see? They're quite common around the island. It gives the meat a very tangy and spicy smell, does it not? Broggy laughed. Indeed, and I never thought dinosaur meat could taste this good. I wonder if there's another way to replicate this taste? Sanji scratched his chin. Gabba-babba-ba. Aren't you an interesting one? They're already acting like friends. Usopp nudged Nami. How is he so calm about this? Vivi flinched at every one of Broggy's sudden movements. Quack! Kor slurped nervously on his drink, eyes not leaving the giant in front of him. That's because he's an idiot. Nami sighed. Sanji brought them plates of meat that he had cut himself. Please help yourselves, Nami Swan, Vivi Chuan. Air. Thanks, Sanji. Vivi took the plate from him hesitatingly, eyes still watching the giant. Mr. Broggy? Nami raised her hand timidly. May I just ask? How? How long will it take for the log post to set? 1 full year, Broggy deadpanned. Everyone gasped in shock. So take it easy while you're still here. Gabba-babba-ba. Broggy laughed. Fish dinosaur heat is really good. Luffy stuffed his mouth full of the meat. Gegyo Jayagya. You have good taste, my friend. Have as much as you want. That dinosaur you killed has more than enough for the two of us. Dory laughed. So what are you doing living alone here? Luffy gulped down his food. Dory grinned. I am currently engaged in a duel with another giant from my village, and until that duel is settled, I cannot leave this place. Oh? Luffy tilted his head. What's the duel for? Dory looked fondly towards the direction where Broggy was staying. You see, in our village there's a certain rule: if two warriors get into a quarrel and neither side can settle it, we'll have to engage each other in a duel under our god Elbaf's judgment. He will ensure the one that was right will survive the duel and the one who was wrong shall be slain. Munching down on the meat in his hands, he glanced back at Luffy with a huge grin. I, myself got into a quarrel with another giant, so this island has been our battleground since then. Although this duel hasn't been settled for the past 100 years. Wow! You've been fighting for the past 100 years? Luffy gasped. It's nothing to be surprised about. We giants live 3 times longer than normal humans after all. Gegyo Jaya Jaya. Dory thumped his chest proudly. To be honest though, we've fought for so long that both of us have forgotten the reason as to why we were fighting in the first place. I see. It's a battle about your pride now, isn't it? Luffy grinned. Indeed. Dory grinned back, just as a volcano erupted nearby. Dory dusted his legs as he stood up, gripping his sword. I don't know when it started, but that volcano has turned into our signal to begin each of our duels now. Luffy watched in awe as the giant stomped his way towards the other giant that was coming to meet him. Why am I surrounded by idiots? Nami cried. He's no idiot. He's a true warrior. Usopp protested, his eyes watching Broggy in awe. They already forgot the reason this duel started in the first place. So why do they keep on fighting? Nami protested with Vivi nodding beside her. A man's pride is a complicated thing. Sanji puffed on his cigarette, watching as the giants greeted his other with their weapons drawn. Is that something that you would risk your life for? Vivi asked, unable to tear her eyes away as the giants clashed against each other. Usopp nodded. A true warrior would rather lose his life than his pride. Had a warrior lost his pride, he would carry that shame with him for a lifetime, whereas if he had lost his life defending his pride, his legacy would carry on for generations. Well said, Sanji grinned, while the girls only shook their heads in disbelief. The earth shook as the giants both clashed their weapons again and again, each aiming to kill the other. To think there's a whole village of them. They are truly great warriors of the sea. If I could visit them, maybe I could learn a thing or two. Usopp stared longingly at the giants. The giants let out a loud roar as they punched each other across the face with their shields, knocking each other sprawling onto the floor, ending the fight in a draw. Hey, Dory. I've got rum from my guests. Why don't you drop by for a drink? Broggy laughed. Gegyo Jaya Jaya. Perfect. I haven't had rum in a long time. I'll go get my guest over too. Dory laughed. Zoro stood amidst a herd of dead triceratops, each one having various slash marks across their bodies. Huh, still nothing. Zoro frowned, staring at the triceratops. Maybe I'm not in enough danger? Zoro looked around, trying to find another bigger opponent to fight. Isn't it great to have guests, Dory? Gabba-babba-ba. Broggy laughed, slapping his old friend on the back. Gegio Jaya Jaya. So all of you are Marines in the same crew? What a coincidence! Dory laughed, pouring a barrel of rum down his mouth. I thought you guys didn't want to leave the ship? Luffy pouted at Nami, munching on a piece of meat he got from Sanji. Nami looked away, a bead of sweat dropping down her forehead. Well, Mr. Broggy, there was rather convincing. I don't mean to interrupt Mr. Giants, but is it true it'll take 1 whole year for the log post to set? Vivi frowned. Indeed, both Dory and Broggy said at the same time. Vivi flinched. We don't have that much time. Is there any other way? We do have an eternal pose, but it only points towards Elbaf. Are you guys going to take it from us? Dory frowned at them. Luffy grinned up at them. Nope. We only need to get to Alabasta, so we don't need it. Gabba-babba-ba. You humans are so interesting. Broggy chuckled. Is there really no other way to get to Alabasta? Sanji crossed his arms. Well, if I had a Den Mushi, I could probably request an eternal pose from headquarters. Luffy frowned. And you just had to lose it to that exploding guy. Nami wailed. Ah. Speaking of which, isn't he on the island right now? Sanji hammered his palm. Nami and Vivi gasped. We totally forgot. What is it? You guys have more friends on the island? Dory raised an eyebrow. All of them shook their heads in unison. You can say they are assassins after my life. Vivi frowned, now watching the trees around her carefully. Both Dory and Broggy huffed in indignation, crossing their arms. You hear that, Dory? Broggy frowned. Indeed, there's someone on this island that dares to try to harm our new friends. Dory furrowed his brows. I say we go root them out from the forest. Broggy got up, grasping his axe. Agreed. Dory brandished his sword, just as the volcano erupted again. I guess we'll have to settle another round first. Dory glanced at Broggy. Broggy lowered his head, grinning. Fine with me. Both giants lunged at each other as the Straw Hats ran for cover, hiding in the forest. Those guys are crazy. Nami cried. You'd think they'll at least remember we were in the middle of them at least. Everyone watched from the edge of the forest as both giants clashed once more. No one would have guessed that those two had been laughing and eating beside each other moments ago by the ferocity of their fight. There they are. Mr. Five frowned at the Marines that were watching the fight while hiding behind some bushes. They haven't seemed to have noticed us yet. I'll get that damn Commodore back for punching me so far away. Miss Valentine gritted her teeth. Now, you'll both have your revenge soon enough. Mr. 3 smirked. My plan's already in motion. What about the giants? Mr. 5 glanced back at Mr. 3. Mr. 3 only smirked wider, not even looking at the fight. They're not our priorities, we just need to make sure these Marines and the princess don't escape alive. The boss will reward us greatly if we can complete this mission. Now listen as I tell you my plan. Miss Goldenweek munched on her rice cracker while watching the giants fight, not paying attention to the Mr. 3 explaining his plan to the other two. Now, as soon as I give the signal, we all move out together, understand? Mr. 3 grinned devilishly. The other two nodded before moving to their respective positions. We're not alone. Luffy frowned. The others glanced at him before whitening their eyes. There's one on each side and another two behind, don't let them know that we know. Luffy crossed his arms, pointedly looking straight ahead. What do we do? Nami leaned towards Luffy, trying her best to not move her lips. As soon as they attack, I need all of you to make a dash for the clearing and bring them out of the forest. I'll cover our backs. Luffy lowered his head. Everyone nodded in affirmative, readying themselves. Using his observation haki, Luffy saw the figure of Mr. 5 with his hand ready to flick his explosive snot at him. Just as his fingers twitched, Luffy yelled, "Now!" Everyone ran out of the forest and into the clearing, turning around and readying themselves for a fight as the trees behind them exploded. A smoking but otherwise unharmed Luffy leapt out from the dust moments later, his back towards them. Before anyone could say anything, another snot fired towards Luffy, encasing him in another explosion, tossing up another dust cloud. "Look out for the wax!" Luffy yelled from within the smoke just as another explosion blew in front of him. The crew looked around in confusion until they saw a trail of wax flying straight towards Vivi. "Oh no you don't." Sanji stepped in front of Vivi, attempting to kick the wax away. "Candle lock." Sanji found his leg that came into contact with the wax bound in a candle-shaped restraint. He stumbled onto the ground as he lost his footing, just as another wax trail appeared from within the trees. Vivi could only gasp as the wax trail reformed itself into a spear and shot itself towards her. Armament! Luffy stood in the path of the spear, his skin fully black. The wax spear shattered against his hardened skin the moment it came into contact. Sa! NJI kicked his foot on the ground, smashing the wax restraints into pieces. "Heh, you guys are stronger than I thought." Mr. 3 emerged from the forest. "Mr. 3. Vivi furrowed her brows. Era, Miss Wednesday, I don't believe we've met face to face." Mr. 3 grinned. "Too bad it has to be under such harsh circumstances." Luffy stepped towards Mr. 3, blocking Vivi from his sight. "Back away now, unless you want me to kick your ass." "Heh, you're not really convincing, Marine. You don't seem to have the brawn to back your words up." Mr. 3 laughed. "I would usually offer you guys a chance to leave with your lives, but all of you know our boss's secret, so I'll have you die here." Mr. 5, Miss Valentine and Miss Goldenweek stepped out from the forest behind Mr. 3. "We're not going to allow any of you to leave this island alive," Mr. 3 smirked. "Oh? What's a house like this doing here?" Zoro poked at the house made of wax. Behind him, a decapitated corpse of a Tyrannosaurus Rex lay on the ground, blood spilling out from the neck. Zoro pushed open the door to find the room empty short of the wax furniture and a porcelain tea set on the table in the middle of the room. He walked in just as a den mushi rang on a side table in the corner of the room. He walked up to it and picked up the receiver. "Hello?" Zoro tried. "It's me, how's the mission?" A gruff voice replied from the other end. "Who's this?" "It's Mr. Zero." Zoro felt a grin crawling past his lips. Chapter 14, A Lurking Darkness. "It's Mr. Zero." Zoro grinned upon hearing that name. "Ah, yes, of course, what did you want again?" "Stop playing around, Mr. 3, have you killed those Straw Hat Marines and Princess Vivi?" "Oh. Yes, of course I did, they were just a bunch of small fries, nothing to worry about." Zoro snickered. "Good, I already sent the unluckies to deliver an eternal pose to you. Set off for Alabasta with Miss Goldenweek once you receive it." "Of course, Mr. Zero, will be sure to." Zoro was cut off mid-sentence as an otter appeared from the corner of his eye and lunged at him, a pair of shells that had knives at the ends in its hands. "TCH, what do you think you're doing?" Zoro unsheathed his sword. The otter turned to face him just as a vulture dove through the window, a pair of cannons on its back. The otter lunged again with the vulture behind it, shooting a pair of cannonballs at Zoro. "You guys aren't even worth my time." Zoro ducked under the otter's lunge and sidestepped the cannonballs, slashing his sword at the vulture and sending it crashing into one of the wax tables. The otter leapt at Zoro again, clearly mad at him for cutting its partner. Spinning around, Zoro caught the shells with his blade, smirking at the otter before delivering a punch to its face and sending it crashing into the other end of the room. Shielding back his sword, he picked up the receiver again. "You still there?" "Explain what happened, Mr. 3. The voice seemed very displeased. "Oh, nothing, a bunch of weird animals attacked me, I already dealt with them." Zoro glanced at the unconscious duo. "TCH. Just get here as soon as possible, I don't want to waste any more time." "Oh, before that, Mr. Zero. Did you receive a message from those Marines?" Zoro grinned. "No, why?" "Because my Commodore sends his regards, we're coming to kick your ass, Mr. Warlord." Zoro hung up before he could get a response. Glancing down at the otter and vulture again, he approached them with a sword drawn. Are these things the ones carrying the eternal pose? Zoro poked the vulture with the tip of his sword. Getting no response, he knelt down and turned the vulture over, just as an eternal pose rolled out from under it. Bingo, Zoro smirked. The 4 officer agents of Baroque Works stood against the 4 Straw Hat Marines with Vivi alongside them. Karoo had already hid himself somewhere. I'd say, I'm rather disappointed at you, Miss Wednesday, Mr. 3 smirked. If you had just kept up your ruse, maybe you might have even gotten a place in the new kingdom of Alabasta after Mr. Zero takes over. I would never have forgiven any of you for starting the civil war. Vivi furrowed her brows. Mr. 3 shrugged, disappointed. I guess we can't hold back then, we'll have to kill all of you here and now. Miss Valentine leapt into the air while Mr. 5 brandished a revolver from within his coat, breathing out his breath into the bullet chambers. Miss Goldenweek dipped her paintbrush in one of her paints while Mr. 3 flung his hand towards them, directing trails of wax towards them. On the other side, Usopp pulled back his slingshot with a bullet loaded in while Sanji lit his cigarette and made a dash towards them. Nami assembled her staff and spun it defensively in her hands, standing alongside Vivi who had already pulled out her peacock slashers as well. Luffy gritted his teeth as he covered his whole body with armament haki, charging in with his crew. The two sides clashed, both sides intent on eliminating the other. Mr. 5 aimed his pistol at Usopp and emptied all 6 rounds at him. Usopp frowned. Don't tell me your breath's explosive too? He released all the explosive bullets that he had loaded in his slingshot simultaneously, exploding the breath bullets in between them and throwing up a cloud of smoke. Sanji charged through the smoke as Mr. 5 was reloading his gun. Don't get cocky. Candle lock. A wax trail shot towards Sanji's legs, imprisoning them in a candle-shaped restraint. Sanji stumbled onto the ground, cursing under his breath just as Miss Valentine hovered over him, leg outstretched. 10,000 kilo guillotine. Not on our watch. Both Nami and Vivi leapt towards the descending Miss Valentine, smacking her away before she landed on Sanji. To be saved by you girls, how extremely lucky. Hearts fluttered out of Sanji while he blew kisses at them. Shut up and start being of some use. Nami yelled at him. Too late for that, Mr. 5 grinned, pointing his revolver at them. Exploding star. Usopp shot at Mr. 5. Futile, Mr. 5 smirked, catching the bullet in his mouth and swallowing it. The bullet exploded inside him harmlessly. Explosives don't work on me. He fired the gun at Nami. Don't look down on us. Sanji flipped on his hands, throwing the candle restraint on his legs in the path of the gun. The invisible bullets exploded on the candle, shattering it and freeing Sanji. Luffy charged towards Mr. 3, his haki-infused fist clenched behind him, ready to strike. Candle wall. Mr. 3 threw his hands on the ground, spilling wax on the floor that reformed into a hardened wall of wax. You won't be able to punch through this. Mr. 3 smirked. Luffy punched at the wall, shattering it with minimal effort and letting his momentum carry his punch straight into Mr. 3's face. The others watched with wide-eyed awe as Mr. 3 was sent crashing back through the forest in a single punch. You filthy marine! Mr. 5 pointed his revolver at Luffy, firing all 6 rounds at him. Luffy lowered his head as he swayed his body from left to right, dodging the invisible bullets effortlessly. You shouldn't turn away from me. Sanji jumped at Mr. 5, kicking towards his head. Mr. 5 raised his arm casually to block the kick before detonating his arm to fling Sanji away. Sanji cursed under his breath as he landed on his knee near the edge of the forest. It seems everyone forgot about me, Miss Goldenweek pouted, dipping her paintbrush in black paint before splashing it onto Sanji's back. Color trap, betrayal black. Sanji felt his mind cloud over as the paint imprinted itself on his marine cloak. Great job, Miss Goldenweek, Miss Valentine smirked, pushing herself up from where Nami and Vivi had hit her to. Now, you stupid marine. Get rid of those 2 girls. I'm sorry, I can't hit girls. Sanji deadpanned. What? Miss Goldenweek gasped. The hypnotism is perfect. Why? Because he's a gentleman, Luffy smirked, charging towards Miss Goldenweek. Sanji leapt in front of Luffy, kicking towards him. Luffy barely had time to kick himself away before Sanji's kick missed his head by inches. Looks like he doesn't have trouble fighting you, though, Miss Valentine smirked. Sanji! Snap out of it, you idiot! Nami yelled at him. Mr. Five pointed his revolver at her again. You have other things to worry about, girl. Your opponent is me. Exploding Star. Usopp shot 3 projectiles towards Mr. Five. Don't you learn? Mr. Five opened his mouth to swallow the bullets again. Usopp let a grin cross his face. Did I say Exploding Star? I meant Tabasco Star, oops. You. Mr. Five's face contorted in pain as he felt his body burn up from the Tabasco shots he had just swallowed. He fell to his knees, coughing and spitting in an attempt to get rid of the burn. In the meantime, Luffy was busy swaying from left to right, dodging all of Sanji's kicks. He was still hesitant on raising his hand against his own crew. What's wrong with him, Vivi? Nami cried. Miss Golden Week is a hypnotist. She uses the colors of her paint to control her opponent's emotions. Vivi gritted her teeth. Nami watched as Luffy sidestepped another kick from Sanji that obliterated the tree trunk behind him. Isn't there anything we can do? Vivi pointed at the black paint on Sanji's cloak. If we can get rid of that, he should go back to normal. Got it. Luffy. Keep him busy. We'll get rid of the paint. Nami charged towards Sanji. Miss Valentine stepped in front of her. I don't think so. She leapt into the air, aiming herself at Nami before increasing her weight to 10,000 kilograms. Nami flung herself out of the way as Miss Valentine crashed down on where she had been. You meddlesome bitch. Nami furrowed her brows. Kaya ha ha ha. Just let those two fight among themselves. Miss Valentine laughed, keeping herself in between Nami and Sanji. I don't suppose burning off his cloak would work? Usopp aimed his slingshot at Sanji, a flame star bullet loaded and ready. No! Don't you dare burn the cloak, Usopp! Luffy yelled, blocking another kick from Sanji with an upraised arm. I just have to get it off him, right? Yep, Miss Golden Week deadpanned. Don't tell him. Miss Valentine yelled at her. Sorrow. Luffy dashed past Sanji, grabbing onto his cloak and pulling it off his shoulders. Sanji fell on his haunches the moment the cloak left his shoulders, looking around him in confusion. Luffy swiped the paint off with his hand before tossing the cloak back to Sanji, flicking his hand to get rid of the paint as well. You're not bad, for a marine. A voice called out from the forest. This is the first time I'm forced to use this against a marine. You should be proud of yourself. Mr. 3 emerged from the forest in a giant suit made of hardened wax. It had broad shoulders with spikes lining it and 2 giant boxing gloves for hands. This is my best piece of work. Candle Champion. Mr. 3 grinned proudly, only his head was visible on the suit's torso area. That's the one he used to defeat that pirate worth 42 million berries. Miss Valentine stared at the hulking suit. Miss Golden Week. Paint the suit for me. With that I'll become invincible. Mr. 3 laughed. Nami and Vivi stared at the suit incredulously while Usopp and Luffy had sparkles in their eyes. Miss Golden Week sighed as she painted Mr. 3's suit half-heartedly, muttering about doing unnecessary work all the time. Ha 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 ha. Now to crush you Marines. Mr. 3 laughed with his new colored suit, advancing slowly towards the Marines. This wax that I created is stronger than even steel. There's no way that any of you can stop me now. Luffy stepped in front of him. Really? That's so cool. This is not the time to be admiring it. Nami and Vivi shouted at him. Mr. 3 raised a fist, aiming at the still stationary Luffy. It's your end, you damn Marine. TCH, you damn Commodore. What are you doing? Sanji leapt towards Mr. 3, kicking at his exposed head. Mr. Point 3 dropped the upraised fist to deflect Sanji's kick away, smirking at him. I already told you, I'm invincible. There's no way you can hurt me. Sanji landed on his feet, leaping up towards Mr. 3 again, leg poised to kick. Muton shot. Sanji kicked towards Mr. Three's torso, pushing the wax suit back a few steps. Mr. Three grunted, "Your kicks are strong, but not strong enough to destroy my suit." Mr. Three charged towards Sanji, delivering a flurry of punches towards him. Sanji furrowed his brows as he leapt back from Mr. Three, avoiding the punches that left craters on the ground. While Sanji was occupied, Nami and Vivi lunged towards Miss Valentine, aiming to take her out while she was distracted. She leapt back just as they swung their weapons at her, tooting at them, "Kaya ha ha ha, you think I'm that easy?" Miss Valentine leapt up at the air again, increasing her weight and dropping herself towards Nami and Vivi again. Both girls leapt away from her point of impact, grinning towards each other. Nami gripped her staff, holding it over her shoulder with both hands. "If you keep on using the same attack." Vivi spun her peacock slashers on both her fingers, arms thrown back in preparation to strike. "We'll know just how to counter you." As Miss Valentine crashed into the ground, both Nami and Vivi swung their weapons at the same time. Nami's staff caught Miss Valentine across her face while Vivi struck her across her abdomen, sending her crashing away, leaving her unconscious on the ground. Both girls high-fived each other victoriously, striking a victory pose. "Don't cough. Don't get cough so cocky." Cough. Mr. Five finally stood up, his face blood-red with saliva dripping past his swollen lips. Usopp grinned uncontrollably, hands on his hips. "You should just stay down if you know what's good for you." "You damn long nose, cough, I'll get you first." Mr. Five raised his revolver with unsteady hands. "Well, how about this? Pepper bomb." Usopp threw a small satchel at Mr. Five. With his eyes still teary from the Tabasco he swallowed, Mr. Five didn't notice the satchel thrown at him until it was too late. The satchel collided with his face, scattering its powdery contents all over him. You. Ah. Achoo. Mr. Five sneezed, his breath exploding on the ground near him, sending him flying back into the forest. A few moments later, another explosion blasted from within the forest, followed by another one further away. "Ha ha ha. I may not be a true great warrior of the sea yet, but I still have my ways to win my fights." Usopp thumped his chest proudly. "Yeah, a little help would be great here too." Sanji yelled, dodging another punch from Mr. Three before delivering another kick towards his torso, still unsuccessful in breaking the suit. Luffy started running towards him. "Hold on, Sanji. I'll be rig. Color trap, betrayal black." Miss Goldenweek splashed the black paint on Luffy's cloak. "No! Luffy!" Nami screamed in horror. Luffy could feel his mind clouding over as his vision darkened. Flashback. Luffy stood in the room that belonged to the captain of the pirate ship. Instead of the marine attire he usually wore, he wore a black suit with a red-colored tie half hidden by his suit jacket. Right in front of him was the captain of the pirates. The pirate himself was huddling in a small corner of the ship, staring up at Luffy in fear. He had his hands raised defensively, hoping that it would help keep him alive. Three figures stepped into the room behind Luffy. One of them had an extraordinarily thin and long mustache that stretched down past his torso, accompanied with a pointed goatee. His sleek black hair was braided to look like a scorpion's tail, and a pair of pointed sunglasses rested on his head. He wore a black tainshuang that was white down the middle and left open to expose his muscular chest. A black tie was hooped loosely around his neck that reached down to a red sash tied over his black pants. The second man had a noticeably larger frame and a very obvious mane of long pinkish hair. He wore a normal black suit that was accompanied with a green tie at the collar. In his hands were two handguards that covered the back of his hands, while he wielded a staff that he slung loosely on his shoulders. The last man was the strangest, with his big round frame that was shaped like a balloon. His oddest feature was the zip that stretched across his mouth, one that he has to unzip if he wished to speak. Despite that, his green hair was well groomed and he wore his black suit and white tie smartly. "Jaya ha ha, so you found him, Luffy? You can do the honors then." Jabra laughed, flipping his braided hair over his shoulder. "Yoy. Such sadness. A life so fleeting, so fragile, like the petals of a flower blown by the storms." Komadori cried, wiping his tears with his long, pink hair. "Cha Papa, so this is the end for the infamous pirate that tried to expose the government's secrets?" Fukuro unzipped a part of his mouth, glancing at the cowering pirate. Luffy said nothing as he continued to stare at the pirate, his hands relaxed by his sides. Jabra walked up to him, putting a hand on Luffy's shoulder. "Go on, kid, you know what you have to do." He leaned his head beside Luffy's ear, his wolfish grin still plastered on his face. "Once you're done with him, we can all go back home and you can have all the meat you want." Fukuro unzipped the zip across his mouth again. "Cha Papa, Jabra's just jealous because Luffy's Dariki is 500 points higher than his." "Shut up. No one needed to know that." Jabra punched Fukuro out of the room. "Oh. Forgive Fukuro's travesty. I shall commit seppuku in his stead," Komadori cried, stabbing himself with the end of his staff. Before the staff pierced his body, he instinctively used Tekai and stopped the staff from causing any harm. "Ah! I failed again. Is my mother in heaven protecting me? You too. Get out of here!" Jabra shouted, kicking him out of the room after Fukuro. He turned back to the still stationary Luffy, grabbing him by the shoulders and turning him around to face him. "Listen to me, Luffy, we already talked about this before. We're here to do what needs to be done and none of us needs to like what we're doing. Even so, we have to do it because no one else would in order to protect what is precious to us." Luffy glanced at the still cowering pirate before turning his gaze back to Jabra. "But isn't arresting him good enough? Even Gramps told me." "Luffy, this is different. These kinds of people are too dangerous to be left alive." Jabra pointed at the pirate, who was trying to make himself smaller in the corner. "Listen well, Luffy. We are assassins. We are sent to eliminate anyone that threatens the safety of those that we care about. You care about your friends, don't you?" Jabra stared hard at Luffy. Luffy nodded dumbly. Jabra turned him around to look at the pirate. "You see this guy? This is the kind of person that would kill anyone you cared about without a second thought. Do you think he's worth being kept alive? Perhaps locking him up is enough?" Jabra sighed in exasperation. "He possesses information that can kill your friends if he chooses to spread it. In order to stop that, we have to kill him. Even if we lock him up somewhere, there will always be a chance that information will leak out somehow. If you wish to protect your friends, you have to kill him." Luffy hesitated, looking down at the pleading pirate who was begging for his life. "Do it, Luffy, for the sake of everyone you care about. You have to know when to put aside your emotions in order to protect everyone." Jabra shoved him towards the pirate. Luffy stumbled on one of the uneven planks on the floor, falling towards the pirate. Seeing his chance, the pirate fished out a knife he had kept hidden under his shirt, stabbing towards Luffy. Jabra muttered a curse under his breath as he pushed Luffy away, letting the knife stab him in the side instead. Luffy fell on the floor, staring up at Jabra's bleeding form in horror. "You see, Luffy? What did I tell you? Scum, like him, deserve to be killed." Jabra gasped. The pirate pulled out the knife, turning to face Luffy with a triumphant grin. Jabra fell on his back, gasping at his bleeding wound. A shadow crossed over Luffy's face as he stared at the pirate with half-lidded eyes. The pirate lunged towards Luffy with the knife, gasping in shock as the knife shattered against Luffy's skin. He glanced up to see Luffy's entire body had turned a solid black color and even his eyes seemed to be an endless black pool of dread. Luffy grabbed the pirate by the neck, throwing him against the far end of the room. The pirate screamed as he felt bones snap from the impact, coughing up blood. Luffy reappeared in front of him in an instant before he could fall towards the ground, grabbing the pirate's head with a hand before slamming him face-first into the ground. He pulled the bloodied pirate up to face him. The pirate croaked with fear as he saw Luffy's face deceptively empty of all emotions, but his eyes held an unrestrained fury. Luffy punched his fist into the pirate's abdomen, sending him crashing back into the wall again. This time he stayed there, hanging limply. Luffy approached him slowly, his fists clenched. He stopped in front of the wall, staring at the pirate impassively before he let loose a flurry of unrestrained blows on the pirate, destroying him and the wall completely. Fukuro and Komodori walked back into the room, lifting Jabra off the floor. "Chapapa, it isn't like you to let yourself get stabbed like that," Fukuro noted. Jabra grinned wolfishly, "He, it was worth it, now we have awakened a side of Luffy that would not hesitate to kill." Yoyoi! Such anger! Such fury! As if the heavens themselves thunder upon the earth. Komodori cried, watching Luffy hammer into the already dead pirate with no signs of stopping. A few tense minutes passed before Luffy finally stopped, breathing hard. His fists were thoroughly stained with the pirate's blood while he stood on the remains of the pirate that was now already crushed beyond recognition. He turned to look at Jabra, seeing him supported in between Fukuro and Komodori. He released his haki and took an unsteady step towards Jabra, his hands reaching out towards him with his usual smile on his face. "Jabra. You're all right. Thank gods. You're all right." Komodori left Jabra's side and rushed forward to catch Luffy before he fainted on the floor. A true man amongst men. Such compassion for his friends. Oh, so the heavens weep for him. Komodori cried again, his tears spilling down his cheeks. "Jaya ha ha ha. Let's take him back, I'm sure our missions will go much smoothly now with this," Jabra smirked. "Chapapa, I'm sure his Dariki will increase even further now," Fukuro laughed. "Shut up!" Jabra yelled, punching Fukuro in the head. "Ha ha ha! Great job, Miss Golden Week. Now, Mr. Luffy, kill those friends of yours." Mr. 3 laughed, raising his arm to block another kick from Sanji before smashing him away with the other fist. Luffy turned towards where Usopp, Nami and Vivi were standing, his eyes were glazed over. Before anyone could react, Luffy was already standing in front of Nami, both fists clenched. "Luffy, wait." Nami raised her hands, trying to get Luffy's attention. She gasped when Luffy grabbed her by the collar and slammed her on the ground, his face devoid of emotion. "Let go of her!" Vivi cried, slashing her peacock slashers at him only to have them bounce away from his hardened skin. Nami looked up at Luffy in fear as he raised a fist, fully intent on bringing it down on her. She shut her eyes tightly just as the fist descended. Both Usopp and Vivi flinched back. The ground shook from the punch, a small crater formed at where Luffy's fist had landed. Nami slowly opened her eyes to see Luffy gritting his teeth with his fist implanted into the ground beside her head. "Must protect everyone," Luffy gasped through gritted teeth. He slowly got up from Nami and stepped away from her, his whole body quaking from overcoming the hypnotism with sheer willpower. "I will not hurt my friends," Luffy yelled, encasing himself in his haki again before smashing a fist into the ground. This time, the whole island shook from the punch as a crack formed from the point of impact, spreading itself towards both ends of the island. With a yell, he reached up a hand and tore off the cloak on his shoulders, tossing it to one side. "Luffy!" Nami gasped, watching the raw display of power Luffy was showing. Usopp's legs were quaking in fear while Vivi had her hands covering her mouth, eyes wide open in shock. Sanji stood extremely still, both his mouth and eyes wide open as he let his cigarette fall out of his mouth. His haki was rolling off of him in waves, the air around them noticeably vibrating. The island continued to shake while all the volcanoes on the island erupted simultaneously. Every living creature on the island instinctively ran as far away as they could from where Luffy was standing. Miss Goldenweek had already escaped into the forest, every fiber of her being screaming at her to run from the monstrosity that had awakened. Mr. 3 himself stood frozen in fear, even he understood how little chance he stood against him right now. Luffy took a step towards him, the island seemed to groan and shake at that single step. "Why? Wait. I'll let you all go. There's no need to fight anymore." Mr. 3 raised his hands defensively, taking 4 steps back for every step Luffy took. The ground beneath Luffy exploded as he leapt towards Mr. 3, his face contorted with rage. With a yell, he punched towards Mr. 3 who had the suit's hands raised in defense. A shockwave exploded out from the impact of the punch, blasting Mr. 3 away while shattering the suit into millions of pieces. The shockwave itself blasted a huge crater in the ground beneath Luffy, spewing a cloud of dust into the air. As the dust settled, everyone found Luffy standing still in the center of the crater, staring at his feet. A few tense seconds passed before Luffy collapsed on his knees, falling onto the ground. Luffy! Nami cried, sliding down the crater towards him. Wait! Nami! What if he's still berserk? Usopp shouted after her, peering into the crater with Vivi. Sanji leapt in after Nami, running towards the prone Commodore. Nami held Luffy up in her arms, shaking him awake. Nami? Luffy gasped. I didn't hurt you, did I? No, you idiot, Nami cried, still holding on to him. Ah. That's good. I was afraid I might have done something I would never forgive myself. Luffy grinned sheepishly, closing his eyes. I'm tired now. Let me sleep for a while. You stupid Commodore. What would we do with you? Sanji grinned at the already fast asleep Luffy. What monstrous strength. It seems I may have underestimated you humans a little. Dory knelt down beside the crater, sporting new bruises on his face. Gabababa. Indeed. I would have mistaken all this destruction to be done by a rampaging giants if I didn't witness all this with my own eyes. Broggy laughed heartily despite the bruises that marred his face as well. Dory reached out a hand into the crater, picking up Nami, Sanji and the sleeping Luffy and brought them back onto flat ground. Gegyo Jayagya. With that strength, he truly is a warrior worthy of recognition. Dory laughed, surveying the damage Luffy had dealt to the island alone. Gabababa. Indeed, Dory. I'd never seen such a display of strength in all my life. Broggy laughed as well. That was the moment Zoro chose to enter the clearing. Zoro looked at the destruction of the clearing with wide eyes. Hey? What happened here? Where the hell were you? The others shouted at him. Whoa, are you guys giants? Zoro gasped at Broggy and Dory. Answer the question. Calm down, guys. I was just training in the forest. I did come across this weird-looking wax house that's supposed to belong to Mr. 3. Zoro dug his ear, grimacing. There was a den mushy inside and I got in contact with Mr. 02, though he mistook me for Mr. 3 at first. What did you say to him? Vivi stared wide-eyed at Zoro. He smirked. I told him we're coming to kick his ass, of course. You idiot. Nami smacked him on the head. Couldn't you have just told him we were already dead? That would save us so much trouble. Zoro clutched at his head where a lump had formed. Shut it, witch. Our Commodore said so himself, didn't he? We're all going to kick his ass anyway. Don't shout at Nami, you ungrateful brute. Sanji kicked towards Zoro. Zoro parried away the kick with a sword. Shut it, Arrowcook. I'll do whatever I want. Gabababa. You humans are so interesting. Broggy laughed, smacking his tummy. Nami sighed, propping Luffy's snoring head on her lap. This still doesn't solve the problem of being stuck on this island for the next year. Vivi nodded sadly. If only we had an eternal pose to Alabasta. Oh, apparently I found this pose inside the house too. It does have the word Alabasta written on it though. Zoro fished out the eternal pose from within his cloak. That's it. Vivi rushed up to grasp the eternal pose with both hands, a huge smile on her face. Thanks, Mr. Swordsman. She pulled the stunned Zoro into a hug. Sanji cried, hammering the floor with a fist, crying, why can't I be the one to find it instead of that brute? Well, we shouldn't stay here any longer than we should then. Nami grinned. That's a shame, but we won't keep you here. Dory grinned down at them. I hope you reach home safe, girl. Broggy gave a thumbs up to Vivi. Zoro reached down and slung the still sleeping Luffy over his shoulders while Nami picked up Luffy's cloak, making sure to get rid of the black paint on it first. Mr. Giants. I'll train myself to be proud warriors like you guys someday. And when I do, I'll visit Elbaf to see you guys. Usopp waved at the grinning Dory and Broggy. Gabababa. We'll be waiting. Broggy waved back at the departing Marines. As the figures of the Marines disappeared into the forest, Dory turned to Broggy with an uncertain frown. Broggy, you don't suppose that after all these years of fighting without a victor, God Elbaf might have bestowed his divine protection on the both of us? Broggy scratched his chin, now that you mention it. I never heard of any other duels lasting over a century before. Gegyo Jayagya. Indeed. Perhaps it's a sign that both of us were right in our argument. Broggy laughed. Gabababa. But we've already forgotten what the argument was about. Putting that aside, we have more important matters right now. Dory stood up, grasping his sword. Indeed, our friends are setting sail, we should at least make sure they make it through. Broggy got to his feet as well, hefting his axe. I guess this is it for both our sword and axe, eh? Dory glanced at his friend. Heh, that human has shown me the things he could achieve with just his fists, I have no regrets. Broggy nodded back. Nami gave the call to set sail as Zoro dumped his sleeping Commodore inside the cabin unceremoniously, joining the rest of the crew in readying Mary. As the ship neared the mouth of the river, the crew found the two giants standing on either side of the river, weapons held ready. It's been so long since we last saw such a display of strength, Dory grinned. Such conviction and will, truly the mark of a great warrior. Broggy hefted his axe on his shoulder. As a mark of respect from one warrior to another. Allow us to ensure your safe passage. The two giants turned to look down at the gaping straw hats. The reason why most of the little ones never make it past this island lies straight ahead. Dory pointed with his sword. Trust in us and sail straight ahead no matter what happens. Broggy pointed with his axe. Usopp gazed at the giants in awe, understood. Let's sail straight ahead, guys. Are you sure we can trust them? Zoro raised an eyebrow. Doesn't look like we have much choice. Sanji pointed to a giant figure rising out from beneath the sea. May we all meet again one day, the two giants shouted, settling into a stance. Nami and Vivi screamed as a giant goldfish exploded out of the water, mouth wide enough to swallow both giants with room to spare. Usopp! Turn the wheel! Nami shouted up at him. Usopp's legs were shaking, but he held onto the railing firmly. No. We're sailing straight ahead. We're going to be swallowed up by that thing. Turn the wheel. Nami shouted. Too late. Vivi cried as the jaws closed in around their ship. Straight ahead. Straight ahead. Usopp shouted, tears spilling past his cheeks. Stop shouting. It's already too late to do anything. Nami yelled back at him. A large explosion rocked the ship as a hole was blasted through the goldfish's mouth, sending the ship and the crew flying back out from the back of its head. The ship landed back onto the sea with a loud splash, the crew clinging onto the railings for dear life. So this is the strength of Elbaf's warriors? Absolutely stunning. Usopp shouted in between his tears. I'll definitely visit there one day. To be able to cut the ocean itself. I have to become even stronger. Zoro grinned. You guys are all crazy. Nami sighed, though a smile still crept onto her face. Go my friends! Dory shouted, tossing his shattered sword towards the sea. Chase your dreams. Broggy tossed his similarly broken axe as well. Both of them watched the ship sail towards the horizon steadily with pride. Doesn't it make you want to sail the seas again, Broggy? Dory crossed his arms, grinning widely. Indeed, perhaps we might not be pirates this time, Broggy laughed, watching the sea with determined eyes. We'll gather a crew again, and let's sail the seas one more time. Dory reached a fist towards Broggy. Gab-ba-ba-ba. Just like old times. Broggy fist bumped Dory. Somewhere else, a marine battleship was making its way towards the calm belt from the Grand Line. Captain Smoker, sir. We intercepted a highly suspicious call. A marine soldier called out from the deck. Smoker grunted, walking up to the soldier with Tashigi beside him. Play it, Marine. The Marine fumbled with the black den mushi, replaying the conversation it had intercepted. TSSS, CRRK. Mr. 3, KRR. Straw Hat Marines and Princess Vivi. TSSS. Set off. Alabasta. KRRR. Mr. Zero. Already dealt with them, clack. Smoker frowned, was that the best you could get? Aye, sir. The call was too far away to intercept clearly. The Marine nodded. What does this mean, Captain Smoker? Toshiji glanced at her captain worriedly. Smoker took a drag of his cigars, we don't know for sure. But we can at least piece together what we already heard. The straw hats. Toshiji muttered. Smoker nodded, it seems Commodore Luffy might have gotten himself involved in some sort of trouble. Especially that Princess Vivi that was mentioned. You mean Nefertari Vivi? The princess of the kingdom of Alabasta that has been missing for some time? Toshiji gasped. Indeed. And with all that Mr. 3 and Mr. 0 going on, we can only assume those are code names for some sort of organization. I don't like how he had said already dealt with them either. Smoker frowned. He dug out Luffy's Vivre card, breathing a sigh of relief to see it was still in good condition, albeit with slight burns in the corner. He fished out a Den Den Mushi from within his jacket and dialed Luffy's number, frowning when he realized the call could not connect. Toshiji noticed his frown. What's wrong, Captain? I can't reach him. Smoker furrowed his brows, stowing the Den Den Mushi back in his jacket. He scratched his chin as he thought about his next course of action. He pointed at the Marine that had intercepted the call headquarters and request for an eternal pose to Alabasta, tell them we intercepted that call and will be assisting the Straw Hats. I'm assuming they managed to save the princess from the organization and might be on the run trying to get her to safety. Yes, sir. The Marine scurried off. Toshiji, set a course to where this Vivre card is pointing to, will join up with them. Toshiji raised an eyebrow, if we're going to follow them, why do we still need the eternal pose? Smoker rolled his eyes, if I can't contact Commodore Luffy, it probably means his Den Den Mushi was destroyed. He wouldn't have any way to request for an eternal pose from headquarters in that state, so we'll have to guide him there. I see. Toshiji widened her eyes in realization. She grasped the Vivre card from Smoker before dashing off to the bridge, turning the ship around to face where the Vivre card was pointing to. Smoker looked out towards the sea, heaving a sigh. It seems like whether I like it or not, he's still going to keep me here for a while. Chapter 15, Changing Course. Somewhere in Alabasta. Miss All Sunday. A man frowned towards the woman that sat in a couch nearby. The man had a long, thick, dark green pelted fur coat worn over bright orange, black striped button-up vest. Underneath the vest was a long-sleeve peach shirt with a blue-colored scarf around his neck. His nape-length black hair was neatly slicked back, though a long-stitched scar stretched across his face just above his nose. A large gold hook also rested at where his left hand should have been. What is it, Mr. Zero? Miss All Sunday asked nonchalantly, flipping through the book she held in her hands. Contact Mr. 2 and tell him to head to Little Garden. Mr. Zero clenched his fist, glaring at the Den Den Mushi on the table. Miss All Sunday glanced up at him. What do you want him to do? Mr. Zero smashed his fist into the glass table in front of him, shattering it. Tell him to find Mr. 3, and end him. Usopp stared at the direction where Little Garden had disappeared to, his eyes were filled with awe. One day, when I finally can call myself a great warrior, I'll visit Elbaf and see the warriors with my own eyes. Isn't he optimistic? Nami sighed, watching Usopp dance around on the deck with Karoo. Nami glanced at Vivi who sat beside her on the ship's deck, staring intently at the eternal pose that pointed towards Alabasta. Nami reached out a hand to clasp her shoulder reassuringly. Don't worry, Vivi, we'll definitely make sure you get back home safely. Vivi smiled back at Nami. Yes, with this, I can finally stop the war back at my home before it escalates any further. She looked down at the eternal pose again. No matter what, I have to go back and deliver the news to my people and stop this meaningless war. And don't forget kicking Crocodile's ass. Zoro grinned at them while swinging a metal pole with giant weights at the end on the deck. Nami shook her head at him. If only you had just kept your mouth shut. Oh, shut up, it's not like our goal has changed or anything, Zoro grunted without slowing down his swings. What are you doing, Mr. Swordsman? Vivi tilted her head at him. I need to become stronger. I wasn't able to unlock my haki at all back there despite all the danger I put myself into. Zoro huffed in disappointment. Nami sighed. You're actually serious about that? Why not? Zoro raised an eyebrow at her, not slowing down his swings. Because the thought of it is already crazy. Nami groaned, pinching the bridge of her nose. Zoro turned back to concentrate on his swings. Then I guess I just have to be crazy too. Without warning, Sanji burst out from the men's quarters. We got trouble. What now? Nami wrung her hands in exasperation. Sanji pointed towards the room. Luffy's down with a really high fever. What? Everyone immediately dropped what they were doing and rushed past Sanji into the room, crowding around the gasping and sweating Luffy. What happened? What's wrong with him? Vivi asked worriedly. He seemed fine a few moments ago, but when I came in to wake him for lunch, he was already sweating and gasping. Sanji explained. Nami placed a hand on his forehead. Not good. The fever's really high. Get him some wet towels and blankets. Right away. Usopp dashed out of the room. What's wrong with him? Vivi asked again. Nami shook her head. I'm not sure myself. It could be from the climate change, but I highly doubt it knowing him. It might be poison, or some disease that he caught back on Little Garden. He's going to be okay, isn't he? Zoro frowned, worry obvious in his eyes. I can't say for sure. I don't enough medical knowledge to know what's wrong with him. Nami furrowed her brows. What do we do? Sanji wrung his hands in the air. Usopp returned with a bucket of water and towels in his hands. A couple of blankets were slung under his arms as well. Nami dipped a towel in the cool water and wiped the sweat off his brow. We'll need to get him to a doctor. There's doctors in Alabasta, right? Nami turned towards Vivi. There is. But it'll take at least another week to reach there from here. I don't know if he can wait until then. Vivi frowned. Nami stuck a thermometer in Luffy's mouth, grabbing the blankets from Usopp and throwing it over Luffy. She pulled out the thermometer and glanced down at it in shock. It's at 40 degrees. This isn't a joke at all. 40 degrees? Isn't his life in danger then? Vivi cried. Luffy's going to die? Usopp cried, running around the room. Quack! Karoo ran beside Usopp in a panic as well. That monster is actually in danger? Sanji gasped. TCH. And you talked to me about being strong. Zoro gritted his teeth. Shut up. All of you. You're making it worse. Vivi yelled at them. Nami grasped the eternal pose in her hand, shoving it towards the guys. All of you, make yourselves useful and get outside to check we're still on course. Unless we call for you, don't come back inside here. Everyone except Nami and Vivi marched out of the room obediently. Nami turned her attention back to the groaning Luffy. This isn't good. If we don't take him to a doctor soon, he might not make it. Vivi gritted her teeth. Where can we get a doctor all the way out here? Nami unfolded a map she pulled out from her pockets, spreading it open on the floor. She pointed to a position on the map. This is our current estimated position. If this map is as accurate as I think it is, there should be land towards our south, perhaps a few days away. We might be able to find a village there to find a doctor. Vivi gasped, brightening up. Nami nodded, but we will have to make haste. I know Luffy is strong, but even I don't know how long he can hold up with that high of a fever. But if we change course now, it'll mean taking a longer time to reach Alabasta. Vivi frowned. He's in more danger right now. We can take the detour. Nami gritted her teeth as she contemplated on her next actions. Making up her mind, she stood up again and got a newspaper from the drawers in one of the desks, handing it to Vivi. What's this? Vivi raised an eyebrow at Nami. Read the first section. Vivi glanced down at the newspaper, reading through the section that Nami had pointed out silently. What? Vivi gasped, her hands trembling. It's as you saw. The situation is becoming worse. Vivi swallowed. This can't be. Half of the 600,000 strong Royal Armed Forces of Alabasta has switched sides to join the rebels? Nami nodded gravely. The civil war is now at a critical phase. Whatever we decide to do now would be the turning point of the war. But what about Luffy? We can't just leave him like this. Vivi gritted her teeth, glancing at the still gasping Commodore. That's why I'm leaving this decision to you. We can continue on our way towards Alabasta or change our course to those islands to find a doctor. Before Vivi could respond, Luffy reached up a hand to grab Vivi's wrist, drawing shocked gasps from both girls. Don't change our course. We already promised Vivi to take her back home. Luffy gasped. Luffy, you're really sick now, you may even lose your life. Nami chided him softly. Luffy sat up from the bed, pushing away the blankets and setting aside the wet towel. Luffy, what are you doing? Vivi grabbed his wrist as he tried to stand up from the bed. Luffy pulled his wrist away, walking unsteadily to the door. I'm fine. There's no need to worry about me. Just maintain the course for Alabasta. Luffy, get back here. Nami yelled at him, storming towards him to bar his way. I'm not letting you walk around when you're like that. Get back in bed. I told you. I'm fine. He tried to push past Nami, but she grabbed his arm, shoving him back towards the room. She poked a finger at his chest, staring straight into his eyes. Did you not hear me? I said I'm not letting you walk around when you're this sick, so unless you want me to tie you to the bed, get your ass back in there. Nami puffed her chest and crossed her arms, not moving an inch from in front of him. Luffy sighed, looking past her shoulder at the door. You guys can come in. Nami raised an eyebrow before turning towards the open door, all the boys standing there scratching their heads in embarrassment. Don't tell me all of you were just listening in at the door. Nami shook her fist at them. We were all worried about him too. Usopp held up his hands defensively. Then who's making sure we're still on the right course? Nami threw a pillow at them. Zoro smirked confidently, pointing towards a cloud. Don't worry, I've made sure we have been heading straight for that cloud over there. Why that cloud in particular? Nami raised an eyebrow at him. Zoro puffed his chest. That was where the pose was pointing to before. Clouds move and change shape, you know? Nami threw another pillow at him, smacking him right across the face. All right. Since everyone's here, I'm saying that we continue towards Alabasta. Luffy wheezed. We need to make sure we get Vivi back home in the fastest speed possible. Luffy tried to walk out of the room again, but Nami stretched an arm in front of him, stopping him. Right now, whether we go to Alabasta or not is not your decision to make. Our mission is to escort Princess Vivi to where she needs to go, so it's up to her to decide whether we continue on our course or not. Everyone turned to look at Vivi, who had the newspaper clutched firmly in her hands. She glanced at everyone, stopping briefly at Luffy before returning her gaze back to the newspaper in her hands. Right now, the situation in my country is dire. With the desertion of the Royal Army, the rebellion has escalated to a phase where 1 million of my people may be killing each other for no good reason. In order to stop this, I need to get back home as soon as possible and stop Crocodile from achieving his goals. Vivi looked up at the Marines. She could see Nami looking away with a conflicted look in her eyes. Luffy was grinning at her, though sweat poured down his head. Of course. Don't worry about it, Vivi. We'll definitely get you back home in time. That's why I ask of you to change course towards the nearest island to find a doctor for our Commodore. He's the only one that can stand against a warlord, right? Vivi smiled. Everyone else brightened at that. You bet, we probably don't stand a chance even if we get there, Nami grinned. Though it pains me to say so, I'm still not strong enough. Zoro grasped his sword. Well said, Vivi, I've fallen for you all over again. Sanji smirked. Change course. Change course. Usopp yelled, already running out of the room with Karoo chasing after him. Vivi. Luffy frowned. I'm really fine. Enough of that, you heard her. Turn this ship south. Nami yelled, the rest rushing out to obey. Guys, I'm really fine. Luffy felt his knees buckle as he collapsed, two sets of hands reaching out to catch him before he could reach the ground. Really, what a stubborn Commodore we have, Nami huffed, hoisting Luffy back into his bed with Vivi supporting his other side. I guess that's how he became so strong, Vivi chuckled, pulling the blankets over him. Thank you, Nami smiled at her, wetting another towel to put on Luffy's head. It's nothing, even I wouldn't want to see him suffer like this, Vivi smiled sheepishly. I'm sorry for the trouble. Luffy gasped weakly. Hush now, just focus on resting. You can repay us by beating up Crocodile once we get there, Nami grinned at him. She. I guess I can live with that. Luffy returned the grin. The ship sailed south steadily. They had relocated Luffy from the men's room to the girls' room on the account that it had more space, ignoring Sanji's jealous protests. Both Nami and Vivi took turns to watch over Luffy while kicking out the constantly pleading Sanji to be let into the room with them. A day passed by without incident as the ship sailed to colder waters, snow falling from the sky. Sanji was moping about the deck as usual, mumbling about how if he had been the one who fell sick instead, he could be inside the room with the girls and receiving their undivided attention and care. Usopp was experimenting on new types of bullets on the deck while Karoo watched over his shoulder with interest. Zoro was on lookout duty as he scanned the horizon with a pair of binoculars, looking for any signs of the island. Hey! Zoro called out from the crow's nest, getting the attention of the others on the deck. What? You found the island? Usopp looked up hopefully, already abandoning his project. No. Zoro glanced into his binoculars. But do you think a person can stand on water? What the heck are you talking about, you shitty swordsman? Sanji frowned up at him. Zoro pointed a finger straight ahead. How do you explain that then, you arrowcook? Usopp and Sanji turned their heads towards the prow of the ship, spotting the said person that was standing on top of the water casually. He was wearing a checkered jester-like green-blue costume with a white cape tied around his shoulders. He had thick wavy lips and his face seemed to be stuck in a permanent sad expression. A large bow and a similarly large quiver of arrows sat prominently on his back. A few minutes passed as both parties stared at each other. A cold day today, isn't it? The strange man remarked suddenly. Both Usopp and Sanji glanced at each other, shivering. Yeah, now that he said it, it's freezing. Sanji frowned. Yes, it's snowing and everything too. Usopp nodded. Both parties resumed staring at each other in silence. Suddenly, a large, round vessel exploded out of the sea, causing Mary to shake uncontrollably among the crashing waves. What the hell is that? Sanji yelled, clinging onto the railings. Is that a watermelon? Usopp screamed, tumbling on the deck. What the hell is going on outside? Nami yelled inside the room, holding onto the bed to make sure Luffy doesn't fall out of it. Is it an earthquake? Vivi frowned, similarly clinging onto the bed. They clung on desperately for the next few seconds as the ship finally calmed. Luffy cracked open an eye, frowning. What's going on? I don't know, it might be an undersea volcano erupting underneath us. But I don't think there's any in this region. Nami gritted her teeth, wetting another towel to put on his head. I'll go see. Luffy began to sit up. No. We already told you not to move. Vivi protested, pushing him back down on the bed. You stay here, Nami pointed a finger threateningly her Commodore. I'll go check. Nami, wait. Luffy began, but Nami had already rushed outside. What's wrong? Vivi asked, dabbing the sweat off his brow. Luffy gritted his teeth. I hear many voices outside. Voices? Like how you heard Igaram's. Vivi froze. Luffy nodded weakly. There's a lot of people outside. Vivi glanced towards the door worriedly. Why would there be a lot of people outside in the middle of the ocean? Luffy sat up suddenly, tossing the blanket aside. Luffy! We already told you. They drew their weapons. Luffy glared at the door, standing up from the bed. But, you're still sick. Vivi protested, reaching out a hand to stop him. Luffy sidestepped the reaching arm, glancing at her. I'm a Marine. I need to protect my crew. Before Vivi could protest again, Luffy had already disappeared from her sight, the doors leading towards the deck hanging wide open where they were closed moments before. Luffy found himself on the deck of the ship, surrounded by rifle-wielding soldiers. All of his crewmates on the deck had at least 3 soldiers pointing their rifles at them. What's going on? Luffy demanded, wheezing. Luffy! His crew frowned upon seeing him, worried the soldiers would turn on him as well. 2 soldiers stepped towards him with their rifles drawn, pointing them at his head. This is a Marine ship. All of you should know what it means to draw your weapons here. Luffy frowned at the soldiers. Mahahaha, of course we do. We're pirates after all. An overweight man with tin plates on his cylinder-shaped jaw stepped on the deck. He had dark violet hair that was partly covered by a hippo cape worn over his shoulders. Tin plate armor covered his upper body while a pair of purple and orange shorts were held up by a brown belt around his waist. Brown thick gloves covered his hands, which he used to hold on to an exquisitely carved knife that had a piece of meat stabbed on top of it. He opened his mouth wide and munched down on the meat, snapping the blade of the knife inside his mouth. He ate the knife too? Sanji gasped. Ugh, it hurts just to see it. Usopp grimaced. I am Wapol, king of Drum Kingdom. You guys don't happen to have an eternal pose that points there, do you? The overweight man glanced at the crew. Nope, never even heard of that place, Sanji spat at him. Now could you all please leave? Nami pleaded hopefully. Oh, there's no need to rush, if you don't have it, we'll just take all the money you have, Wapol frowned at them. Spotting Nami, he smirked and pointed a finger at her, and while we're at it, I'll take the girl too. What? Nami gasped as the soldier closest to her grabbed her by the arm, pulling her towards their ship. Before the soldier could take another step, he felt an excruciating pain coming from his left shoulder. Looking down, he realized there was a finger embedded inside his shoulder. Nami gasped as Luffy pulled out his bloodied finger slowly, turning to regard the still confused soldiers. I will only say this once. Get off my ship. Luffy wheezed painfully. Mahahaha, you don't look so good, are you sure you should even be standing around? Wapol laughed. Luffy. Nami winced, seeing him swaying unsteadily. I will not ask again. Luffy frowned. Mahahaha. Men. Get rid of them. Guess we have to fight, huh? Sanji spat. Should have done so from the start. Zoro unclasped his sword. Can't we talk about this? Usopp glanced nervously at the rifles pointed at him. Without warning, explosions rocked the pirate ship behind them. Everyone turned to see fire spewing out from Wapol's ship with the crew frantically scurrying about to put it out. What's going on? Wapol demanded. Your Majesty. A marine battleship is coming towards us. We need to leave. The man who was wearing the jester costume shouted from the ship. Damn it! It doesn't matter, we have hostages here. Wapol turned back to look at the straw hats, only to find all of the soldiers subdued on the ground. Each of the straw hats stood between him and their commodore protectively, weapons drawn. I suggest you take your men and leave now, Nami waved her staff at him. You damn Marines. Wapol gritted his teeth. Your Majesty. We can't take more of this bombardment. We need to dive, now. Another man with an impressive afro on his head shouted. TCH. I'll not forget this. Wapol shouted, opening his mouth wide and swallowing all his men before running back to his ship. Did he just eat his own men? Sanji stared wide-eyed at the departing pirate. Devil. Fruit. Luffy wheezed, holding onto the mast for support. What kind of devil fruit would let him eat his own people? Usopp gasped. Hearing no answer, they turned to find Luffy collapsed on the ground, sweating profusely. Luffy! They yelled out in shock. Zoro rushed to his side, pulling his arm over his shoulder just as Vivi burst out onto the deck. What's going on? Vivi gasped at the pirate ship that was still in the midst of bombardment. Questions later. He's hyperventilating. Zoro yelled, pulling Luffy back into the room. Nami rushed forward to hold the door for him. Hurry. His condition is getting worse. Zoro grunted as he carried Luffy into the room, carefully placing him back onto the bed. We'll take over from here. Nami shooed Zoro away as Vivi tried her best to wipe the sweat off the Commodore's head. In the meantime, go flag down that marine ship, there's bound to be a doctor on board. Zoro rushed out of the room without complaint, immediately yelling at the others to signal the marine ship for help. TCH. They got away. Smoker grunted, watching the pirate ship dive back down into the sea. You don't suppose they might be the organization we were talking about? Tashigi asked. Smoker took a drag of his cigar, frowning. Perhaps. They seem too well equipped for a bunch of no-name pirates. Captain Smoker. A marine yelled from the deck. The ship in front is requesting for help. Figured they might have run into some complications. Steer the ship towards them. Smoker ordered. Aye, sir. Captain Smoker, Zoro grunted, saluting as Smoker stepped onto the deck. At ease, what's going on here, Commander? Luffy's down with a really high fever, Sanji explained. He's in desperate need of a doctor right now. TCH. Tashigi, call our doctor here. Smoker frowned. Where is he? Sanji pointed towards the door with a finger. Tossing his cigars aside, he rapped loudly on the door before entering, furrowing his brows as soon as he saw Luffy in the bed. Nami and Vivi stepped aside as he approached. Who is he? Vivi whispered. Captain Smoker, a friend of his, we met him back at Lode Town, Nami whispered back after saluting him. Luffy, Smoker called out, kneeling beside the bed. Luffy cracked open an eye, grinning when he spotted Smoker. Hey! Smokey! Luffy gasped weakly. This isn't like you at all. Smoker frowned, not used to seeing Luffy being so vulnerable. He. Sorry. Luffy coughed. Captain Smoker. I brought the doctor. Tashigi barged into the room with an elderly bearded man in tow. The doctor immediately went to Luffy's side, opening his bag and proceeded to check on him. What's wrong with him? Smoker furrowed his brows. It seems like he has contracted some sort of disease. The doctor frowned. What kind of disease? Can you cure him? Nami stepped forward. That's the problem. The doctor sighed. He pulled Luffy's shirt back to reveal a nasty bite mark on his left shoulder. It seems he's been bitten by some kind of poisonous insect, but the symptoms he's showing are like none that I've ever seen before. Smoker frowned, turning to Nami. Where did you go before this happened? It's an island called Little Garden. Nami answered shakily. Lit. Plea Garden? Tashigi raised an eyebrow. Smoker cursed under his breath. It's an island that's stuck in the prehistoric age, isn't it? Nami nodded firmly. That would explain it. The doctor gasped. This is probably caused by an insect that has probably been extinct in the rest of the world. Even if I do know what it is, I doubt I have a cure for it right now. Is there nothing we can do to save him? Vivi gasped. The doctor scratched his chin. There's nothing that I can do short of alleviating his pain. If we can't bring him somewhere with better equipped facilities, I fear his life may be in danger. Damn it, where's the nearest marine base? Smoker turned to Tashigi. At least a week's sail away, sir. Tashigi frowned. The doctor shook his head. I'm afraid that would take too long. We can continue on our original course southwards. There's an island nearby that should only be another day's sail away. If there's a town there, I'm sure there's medical facilities as well. Nami suggested. Smoker crossed his arms. If that's the case, we'll have to make sure we get him there fast. Tashigi, steer the ship south, we're escorting them there. Aye, sir. Tashigi rushed out of the room. And you, Smoker gestured with his chin at Vivi. I take it you're Nefertari Vivi, the missing princess of Alabasta? Ye? Yes. Vivi stuttered, not expecting the captain to address her so suddenly. You guys will have to explain what's going on to me later. Smoker nodded his head at Nami. Continue your course towards those islands. Aye, sir, Nami saluted as Smoker stepped outside the room, leaving the doctor to take care of Luffy. So you're telling me you didn't actually get kidnapped by this Baroque works, but instead infiltrated it as an agent? Smoker raised an eyebrow. He was leaning against the main mast of the Going Merry as Vivi stood in front of him, nodding firmly. The doctor and Nami remained inside the room with Luffy while the rest of the crew busied themselves with staying on course. And this organization is causing the civil war in your country just so they can take over Alabasta? Vivi nodded again. And the leader of said organization is none other than the warlord, Crocodile, himself? Exactly, Vivi confirmed. Smoker scratched his chin. This is more serious than I thought. I'll have to report to headquarters about this. This is definitely bad enough that his position as a Shichibukai would be revoked. What are they going to do about it? Zoro raised an eyebrow, leaning against the railing on the deck. Smoker glanced at the sky, thinking for a while. They'll probably want us to go check it out first and send evidence of his criminal activities. Once they have confirmation of his treachery, they'll revoke his status as a Shichibukai and he'll become a wanted criminal again. TCH, so in the end, we'll still have to get our hands dirty, huh? Zoro frowned. Smoker shrugged. They do need to maintain the reputation of the warlords. They don't just give those positions out to anyone, you know. So unless they have concrete proof, the world government would still let him keep his position. Not much of a choice for us then, Usopp grimaced. Smoker nodded. The position of a Shichibukai is considered to be prestigious after all. So we're still going to kick that guy's ass, right? Sanji commented offhandedly from the crow's nest. Heh, most probably, Smoker grinned. Once Luffy gets better, we'll head directly for Alabasta. Speaking of which, I see land ahead. Sanji pointed towards the horizon. Land ho! A marine shouted from the battleship sailing alongside Mary. A snow-covered island came into view. Several drum-shaped mountains that reached towards the sky protruded out proudly. Make preparations to land then, Smoker grunted. Both ships sailed into the river leading inland, dropping anchor near a waterfall. Alright, my men will watch the ships. Let's move Luffy out and find a town. Smoker ordered, already preparing to disembark. The Straw Hats scurried to obey, tying Luffy's sleeping form on Sanji's back. As the Marines prepared to land, a horde of men suddenly appeared on the shore, armed to the teeth. Marines? What are they doing here? Did they come here because of those pirates? A little bit late of them, don't you think? I'm just glad it isn't more pirates. A hulking man wearing a long, white fur-lined green tunic with a matching fur cap that covered his ears stepped forward from the crowd. Marines, have you come to aid us? The man reached out his hands, palms facing upwards. Aid you? Smoker raised an eyebrow. What happened here? The man frowned. So you didn't come here because of the pirate attack? Smoker crossed his arms. We did come across a bunch of pirates some time ago, but we fought them off. Not sure if they were the ones you're talking about. I see. At least we'll have one less pirate to worry about. The man shrugged before raising an eyebrow at Smoker. So if I may ask, if it isn't for the pirate attack, what business do you have with our country? Smoker jerked a thumb towards the gasping Luffy. We have a crew member that's really sick and we need medical facilities not found on our ship. The man nodded in understanding. I understand. Unfortunately, we only have a single doctor in this country and she's a bit of a witch. Oh, someone like Nami then? Zoro smirked. Nami frowned at him while Sanji smacked him on the head. Don't call Nami a witch, you stupid swordsman. Damn Arrowcook, Zoro glanced away. What do you mean by witch? Smoker asked, ignoring the scuffle behind him. The man sighed. I'll lead you to our village, then you can see it for yourselves. The Marines glanced at one another before finally stepping off the ship. The man had introduced himself as Dalton, the captain of the island's guards, while he led them towards their village. He explained that a few months ago, a pirate crew of 5 had attacked their country and had destroyed the country without breaking a sweat, thus they now station guards along the shoreline to guard themselves against any other pirates that might come along. Destroying a country with only 5 people? Vivi gasped. Indeed, Dalton frowned. The captain of the pirate crew was known as Blackbeard. Blackbeard? Smoker scratched his chin. Never heard of him. It doesn't matter now, we finally rebuilt what was destroyed and now we protect ourselves from other pirates. Dalton grunted just as the village came into view. He led them into one of the houses in the village, setting down his things. You can use the bed over there, I'll heat up the room in a moment. Dalton gestured towards a bed in the corner. Sanji dropped Luffy on top of the bed while Nami threw a blanket over him. Can you tell us more about this witch? Vivi asked as Dalton started the fire. If you look out the window, you should be able to see those mountains. Dalton gestured with his chin. You mean those cylinder-shaped things? Sanji frowned. Yeah, they're called the Drum Rockies. And if you look at the tallest one in the middle, there should be a castle right on top of it. Smoker frowned at Dalton. Don't tell me. Dalton nodded, confirming his fears. It's as you thought. Dr. Kureha, the only doctor in this whole country, lives at the very top in that castle. TCH. Of all the places she could be. Sanji stared up at the mountain from the window. I guess we should call her down here, then? Usopp scratched his head. Dalton sighed, standing up from the fireplace he lighted. As much as I would like to, there's simply no way to contact her at all. What? And she calls herself a doctor? Zoro gritted his teeth, glancing at Luffy. Well, her skills as a doctor is undeniable, but she somewhat has a screw loose in her head. She's almost 140 years old after all. How is she even still alive? Nami frowned. So what happens when anyone else needs a doctor? Vivi asked. Dalton scratched his head. Well, she comes down from the mountain whenever she feels like it, finds patients to treat, then takes whatever she wants from them as payment. Sounds like what a pirate would do to me. Smoker frowned. Pirate or not, as long as she can get Luffy better, it doesn't matter. Nami gritted her teeth. How does she even get down from there? Vivi narrowed her eyes at the mountain. Dalton crossed his arms. According to some people, she supposedly rides down the mountain on a sleigh on moonlit nights. That's why people call her a witch. TCH. Isn't there any way we can get her to come here? Smoker gritted his teeth. Unfortunately, no. I'm afraid you'll just have to wait for her to come down the mountain. Dalton sighed. And how long is that going to take? Nami frowned. Dalton scratched his chin. She only recently came down yesterday. So I doubt she would actually come down anytime soon. If I had to guess, probably another 3 days or so. We can't wait 3 days. He already has a 40 degrees fever. Usopp yelled. 42 degrees now. Vivi gasped when she checked the thermometer in Luffy's mouth. 42 degrees? That's not good. He really needs medical attention right now. Dalton bit his thumb. Isn't there anything we can do? Nami cried. This. Short of climbing up the mountain itself. There's no other faster way. Dalton frowned. Sanji clenched his fist. If he climbs up the mountain in this condition, no doubt he'll die. How is it possible that there's even only a single doctor in this whole country in the first place? Smoker furrowed his brows. Luffy! Zoro yelled out, causing everyone to turn towards Luffy, who now sat up straight on the bed, blankets tossed aside. What do you think you're doing? Nami cried, trying to push him back down on the bed. Luffy stopped her with an upraised hand. I just have to get up that mountain, right? What are you planning? Smoker stepped in front of him. I can reach the top with Jeppo by myself. Luffy gasped, pushing himself off the bed only to stumble forward. You idiot, Smoker caught him before he fell on the ground. Is there a path up the mountain? Not that I know of, Dalton shook his head. I guess we have no choice then, Smoker grunted, hefting Luffy over his shoulders. What are you doing? Nami demanded. I'm gonna carry him up the mountain, Smoker deadpanned. What? Vivi widened her eyes. You heard me, Smoker grunted. Someone help me tie him on my back. Usopp took up a length of rope while Sanji held Luffy steady on his back. You can't be serious. Nami protested. Do you know what you're doing? Dalton frowned. I'm a smoke man, I can just propel myself up the mountain once I reach the bottom of it. Smoker grinned. I'm coming along too, Sanji stepped in front of him. Smoker frowned, what are you going to do? There's a species of extremely violent and carnivorous rabbits on the path towards the mountain. If you come across a pack of them, you're done for, Dalton warned. There you go, you could use an escort. I doubt you can fight them off with Luffy on your back, can you? Sanji grinned. If that's the case, then I'm coming too. Zoro stepped towards them. TCH. Fine, but you'll have to pull your own weight, ya hear? Smoker narrowed his eyes at them. Of course, both Sanji and Zoro grinned. It didn't used to be like this. Dalton frowned, watching the three men running off towards the mountain. What do you mean? Vivi turned to him. This country used to be a prosperous one until the late king died and his son took over. That was when his tyrannical rule began. Dalton explained. There used to be a lot of doctors on this island, but that damned Wapol wanted to monopolize the trade and chased out all the other doctors off the island except for his own. Did you say Wapol? Usopp gasped. Dalton lifted an eyebrow at him. What? Do you know him? We ran into a pirate called Wapol just some time ago, right before we came here. Usopp frowned. You met Wapol here? Dalton gasped. So he's supposed to be the king of this country? Did he get chased out by the pirates that came a few months ago? Vivi tilted her head. Dalton gritted his teeth, most definitely not. That accursed man. He didn't even try to save this country when the pirates invaded, he took his men and escaped to the sea faster than anyone else. Vivi's eyes grew wide at this, and he calls himself a king? That's why some of us saw the pirate invasion as a blessing. With it came the end of Wapol's tyrannical rule. Dalton clenched his fists. However, if what you said about meeting him near this island is true, then there's a relatively high chance he might return again. What do we do? Nami frowned. I can only prepare for the worst. Dalton grabbed his weapons from the corner of the room, walking towards the door. You're welcome to stay here for as long as you like, I have to go prepare the guards. The three watched Dalton go before turning to each other. What do you think? Usopp nodded towards the door. I don't like this one bit, Nami said sternly. It doesn't seem like anyone wants Wapol to return either. Vivi bit her thumb. Shall we go organize a resistance then? Nami grinned. The other two grinned back, nodding at each other. That wraps up this part of What If Luffy Became a Marine. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Just a quick reminder, there's only one more part left in the story, What If Ichigo Had a Different Zanpakuto, before we catch up with the author. So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be here on the channel. I'm currently considering these 3 fanfics. What if sign-in system in High School DxD? What if Ichigo awoke his true powers? What if Mangaka in One Piece world? Let me know which one you'd like to see next by voting in the poll. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.